At the mega city Deliverance Church in Rai, President William Ruto, accompanied by his deputy and a host of leaders drawn from the National Assembly and the Nairobi County, attended a church service. The church, shepherded by Bishop Mark Kariuki, was launching its strategic vision that will see the church build several affordable housing units and a conference facility.
Katika Deliverance Church tumekata kauli, tulisikia wito wako wa kupanda miti, na sisi tumejitolea tutapanda 2 million trees. In fact it's not 2 million, it is 1,999,000 kwa sababu umepanda moja leo.
It is here that President Ruto appeared to respond to those who have criticized his stance on the payment of tax.
We have all agreed and we have built consensus that irrespective of your status, of all other considerations, whatever region you come from, whatever religion you profess, all of us, we have built a consensus that there will be no waiver of taxes for anybody. Sisi wote tumekubaliana kila mmoja wetu atalipa ushuru.
The president says by recouping taxes from those who have enjoyed unwarranted waivers and ensuring that every taxpayer honors their obligation, the country will be able to meet its debt obligation and spur development.
Na niyo njia ambayo itatusaidia kuokoa taifa letu kutoka janga la madeni. Dawa ya madeni ni sisi kulipa ushuru na kusimamia maendeleo ya taifa letu tukitumia pesa zetu mpaka tufike mahali pale badala ya kukopa tutakuwa tunakopesha watu wengine.
Sometimes I analyze. I thought that the path to our president getting into leadership was difficult. But I'm now persuaded that getting through the government he's inherited, the economy, the problems bedeviling the people of Kenya is an equally, even more difficult task.
Matthew 22:21, give unto Caesar that which is Caesar's, and to God that which is God's. Kwa hivyo ukiambiwa ulipe ushuru, tafadhali lipa. Usilete anko yako akutetee, tunaleta shosho, naambia madhe pambana na KRA, hakuna hiyo maneno, tulipeni ushuru.
Kuna watu interior walituhangaisha kwa sababu biashara ilikuwa inatakikana. I must say, kwa sababu if we allow those things to continue, and that's why we love the president, to ensure that they do not happen in the future, sindio?
President Ruto, however, sought to assure Kenyans that the collection of tax by the Kenya Revenue Authority will be devoid of drama, revealing that he had instructed the taxman to enter into a payment agreement with defaulters.
Kila Mkenya apatiwe nafasi ya kulipa bila ya kushurutishwa, bila ya kuangaishwa. Kila mtu atapatiwa nafasi.
Government agencies who have also taken KRA to court have been instructed to withdraw their cases immediately and negotiate with the taxman.
Endeni mfanye mazungumzo na KRA, mtoe mpango na taratibu ya kule ya kulipa ushuru polepole, tuache kusumbuana kotini kwa sababu mawakili ndio wanapata pesa na serikali inapoteza.
Remarks by former First Lady Mama Ngina Kenyatta refuting allegations of tax evasion by the Kenyatta family continues to elicit mixed reactions from a cross-section of leaders. While some are calling for stiffer measures on the family, other tax defaulters, some are calling on the Kenya Kwanza government to stop the witch hunt and instead focus on the high cost of living and other issues facing the country.
Unatakiwa kulipa, lazima hiyo vitu yako itashukuliwa, itauzwa, si ndio hiyo sheria ya serikali? Kwa hivyo hakuna haja na ile laini ya kufanya kazi, hiyo iko. Hakuna mambo ya ati kuharibia wale wengine majina na nini.
Former First Lady Mama Ngina Kenyatta speaking in Lamu County on Saturday to set the record straight over tax evasion allegations. Leaders across the political divide have weighed in on the remarks. A section of Kenya Kwanza leaders urging President William Ruto to crack the whip on former senior government officials who failed to pay taxes as required by law.
And we are requesting the president, please move with speed. Let everybody pay tax. Rais Kenyatta alipe tax. Raila Odinga alipe tax. Na wakienda sana kamata wao wawekwe ndani.
These are some leaders led by Vihiga Senator Godfrey Ososi have come out to defend the former first family, reading political witch hunt.
Kila Jumapili wanafanya mikutano ya kanisa ile inaitwa Thanksgiving kwa kila county. Na kwa hiyo mikutano sio mambo ya Mungu ambayo inaongelea, wanaongea mambo ya Raila, wanaongea mambo ya Azimio. Ni siasa tu. Kwa nini mnatafuta vijisababu? Mara mnasema Uhuru Kenyatta.
Safina Party leader and former presidential candidate Jimmy Wanjigi urged the government to deal with retired President Uhuru Kenyatta.
Kijana ingali yuko Uhuru, tafuta yeye. Muachane na hiyo ya historia ya Jomo Kenyatta na mama, hatutaki kusikia. Tumekuwa kwa hii nchi, tumeona mengi. Wengine walianza namna hii.
Kama shida yenu ni pesa, ni nani anafanya biashara hapa Kenya? Sio Mkikuyu. Kama shida ya nchi ni pesa, unataka kutatua hiyo shida. Tafuta Mkikuyu akuonyeshe vile utatoa hizi maneno.
President William Ruto's administration said it's probing at least 300 companies associated with powerful individuals in previous regimes for evading tax. This amid pressure to increase annual revenue collection to 3 trillion shillings to tame rising debt and fund multi-billion shillings project.
Thank you, Ruth Wamboi, for that report. Now, Azimio la Umoja One Kenya leader Raila Odinga maintains President William Ruto's government is not legitimate. At a public rally in Kamukunji grounds in Kibra constituency on Sunday, Raila faulted the Kenya Kwanza administration for failing to address economic challenges facing Kenyans, among them high taxation.
The Azimio la Umoja One Kenya consultative rally at Kamukunji grounds in Kibra, Nairobi. It is here where the Azimio Brigade, led by leader Raila Odinga, made their declaration.
As if subverting the will of the people is not bad enough, he has proceeded to govern with absolute contempt for the people and our institutions. Ruto promised a poor man's government only to unveil a government of billionaires that has no room for the poor.
The former premier further accused Kenya Kwanza administration of governing the country with contempt. Raila maintained the president and his Kenya Kwanza allies had failed to provide Kenyans with a solution to deal with inflation.
There will be no increase in wages to enable people cope with inflation. But there is an increase in taxes. Ruto found our people with a little in their pockets. Now even that little is being taken away.
Leo nimepata simu zaidi ya 50 mimi peke yangu kwa wazazi ambao kesho wanataka kupeleka watoto wao form 1. Hawana pesa, hawana namna, hakuna chakula, mtoto ndio huyo, na huku baba alikuwa amesema kuanzia mwezi huu watoto wa Kenya wote wako secondary school watasoma bila karo.
Hii vita ni vita ya wananchi, sio vita ya baba Raila Amolo Odinga.
Ndio sababu tumekuja hapa siku ya leo. Vile tulisema kule Kamkunji, we will not move on as a nation without electoral justice. Mko na sisi kwa hiyo. Kuna wale walijiingiza kule State House. Walitudanganya ati nyuma ya siku 100 bei ya unge itashuka. Walisema hawakusema. bei ya sukari itashuka. Walisema hawakusema.
Dubbed People's Baraza, the meeting is the third public rally organized by Azimio Brigade this year.
President William Ruto has faulted Azimio la Umoja leader Raila Odinga following his calls for the electoral body to be devolved to the counties. The president said that such a move is not possible, terming it a waste of time and an attempt to subvert the will of the people.
During the leadership annual conference and awards in Abuja, Nigeria, Azimio la Umoja leader Raila Odinga proposed that elections in Kenya should be overseen by the counties. Odinga saying that the current centralized election management system in Kenya paved way for credibility questions. He also wants political parties to second their members to be part of the electoral body. The same demands resonating during the Azimio rally in Nairobi's Kibra estate.
Na tumesema sisi tumependekeza hatutaki tume moja ambayo inakaa Nairobi hapa kama hii ni. Nataka kila county iwe na tume ya uchaguzi. Nairobi yuko na yao, Kiambu yuko na yao, Mombasa wako na yao, washirikisho wako na yao, Machakos wako na yao, Kisumu wako na yao. Unaona? Wakishahesabu kule matokeo inatumwa hapa na hapa, tunajumlisha tu. Tunajumlisha sawa.
During a stopover to address members of the public in Nairobi, President William Ruto took issue with the recent proposition, saying that it had no basis.
Si mambo ya uchaguzi tulimaliza. Sasa mimi nataka ati wale jamaa ati nimesikia wanasema ati hawataki tena uchaguzi ifanyike kwa polling station. Ati wanataka uchaguzi ifanyike ati kwa county. Mimi nauliza nyinyi, mnataka turudishe uchaguzi kutoka polling station tupeleke kwa county? Ati mtu ya kitendawili anasema ati anataka ati avunje IBC apeleke huko chini. Mimi nawaambia hawa jamaa, please, mnapoteza wakati yenu.
The president maintaining that elections were a reflection of the will of the people and are decided at the various polling stations once Kenyans cast their ballot.
IBC haichagui mtu. Wenye kuchaguana ni wananchi hawa. Si nyinyi ndio kuamua? Si nyinyi ndio kusema? Si nyinyi ndio kuamua? Sasa niliwaambia hawa watu watajua hawajui. Mpaka saa hizi hawajui. Ati wanasema wanagombana na IBC. Mnagombana na IBC kitu gani? Nyinyi ndio kusema? Tunaelewana?
Away from politics now, where musicians and gospel ministers gathered at St. Andrew's PCA Church in Nairobi to honor legendary gospel singer, that is Mary Atieno. Mary is visually impaired and is among the pioneers in gospel music industry. The mother of three, who is also a teacher by profession, started her music career in 1979 and has inspired many through her music.
At St. Andrew's PCA Church, Nairobi, artists and fans gather. They are here to celebrate one person, Mama Mary Atieno. Atieno is a legendary gospel musician, her career in the industry spanning for close to 4 decades. The 62-year-old mother of three, who doubles up as a teacher at Buruburu Girls High School, is visually impaired, but even that hasn't kept her away from her life's vision.
I've served God for so many years. I've passed through a lot. I've had battles. Nimepigana na shetani, lakini Mungu hajaniachilia.
Some of Mary's popular songs include Adam na Eva, Hakuna Mungu Mwingine, Sodoma na Gomora, among others. Atieno also seized the moment to release her latest song, Baraka Zinanifuata. Musicians hailed her as a minister of God who has prioritized ministry rather than fame over the years.
Mary Atieno tulikutana naye VOK wakati huo, kwa sasa hivi ni KBC. kwenye kipindi cha Joy Bringer na Sing and Shine kilichokuwa kinaandaliwa na Karanja Kimwere. Tumeona ni wazo zuri kwamba ni vizuri kuwasherekea watu wanapokuwa hai, tusingoje mpaka watu wameondoka ulimwenguni ndipo tunasema mazuri yao.
She has touched the lives of many, and today this is a very auspicious occasion to her as Mary Atieno, the legendary, and also to me and to her family at large.
Larry Liza, who was the convener of the event, highlighted the importance of celebrating such legends while alive.
Now, every Kenyan sings, Adamu na Eva walitenda dhambi asili. And so I felt that Mary hasn't been honored the way she deserves to be honored in Kenya and the world, and decided to bring together a group of friends and a host of artists to just honor Mary.
Speaking to KBC, Dr. Ezekiel Mutua, the Music Copyright Society of Kenya CEO, said the society was working on streamlining policies that would help curb piracy as well as ensure veterans in the music industry live dignified lives.
And I know they have not been getting their royalties as they should. We have been having challenges of collections because of lack of license and because of lack of policies to fight piracy and so on. Because they can't just keep complaining. We've been hearing the stories of artists complaining they're not paid, the government doesn't care about them. I want to assure them that I'm here to bring reforms. I want to assure them I'm here to ensure that musicians are not just famous, but they also have money in their pockets. It will take time, but we are already moving very well with the new government and working together to unite them first of all, because they must be united and speak with one voice.
Bible, and he says it with all his heart.
Now to a rather sad story where a 54-year-old woman who escaped death after being hacked on the neck by her mentally challenged son is seeking assistance for specialized treatment. Sheba Ongaki developed nerve and spinal cord complications despite undergoing treatment after the attack. She now requires 500,000 shillings to treat the condition at a Nairobi hospital.
Church of Jesus, the group say that this month Christians have decided to show love by donating as a sign of love to mankind.
As you know, our Lord Jesus shed his blood and saving lots of people, right? So same like this one, we also following his spirit, we are also sharing our blood to the saving as many as possible.
They added that the best way one can show love is by saving a life.
So we're deciding this blood donation event at the month of the Valentine.
We decided to come together with our members to show love by giving blood so that we can be able to save lives. So I'm doing this out of love, to show love. As this month is...
retake that story for you once again, where a 54-year-old woman who escaped death after being hacked on the neck by her mentally challenged son is seeking assistance for specialist treatment. Sheba Ongaki developed nerve and spinal cord complications despite undergoing treatment after the attack. She now requires 500,000 shillings to treat their condition at a Nairobi hospital. Let's get the details.
At the home of Sheba Ongaki at Nyamataru village in Kitutu Chache Central, Kisii County. A machete attack in 2018 left the mother of three unable to walk or perform other duties on her own. The family was forced to sell property, including a house and piece of land, to settle the initial medical bill of 3.4 million shillings.
Nikao nimepeana shamba. Juu sasa hata hospitali ilikuwa inanisukuma inakujia hiyo shamba. Auction. Sasa the best thing niliona ni kama pesa uza kwa sababu sasa hiyo pesa ilikuwa mingi.
Sheba is not fully healed.
Spine imepona. Lakini kuna discs mbili kwa mgongo ambao nataka aende another expensive surgery ambayo inatakiwa niwe na 500,000 shillings ndio aishi a normal life. Niache kuteseka both usiku na mchana kumlinda juu sasa hajisaidii kivyake.
She needs help to get further treatment.
Na request ile njia itaweza kutufanya tupate hiyo pesa aende kwa matibabu juu sasa daktari amesema ataishi a normal life again. Hii mama tumetoana mbali na minus yeye sasa naona kama hiyo maisha yangu sasa hakuna naye.
Donations can be channeled to Cooperative Bank, account number 01116451714600 or M-Pesa number 0722814267.
Christian faithful gathered at AIC Kibra grounds to show love through blood donation in line with the month of February. Led by Ran Lee, head of Skinchonji Church of Jesus, they encouraged Kenyans to express their love to fellow Kenyans through donating blood. And as Pauline Nasimiu now reports.
Shinchonchi Church of Jesus, in partnership with Red Cross, Kenya Tissue Transplant Authority and Kenya Defence Forces Memorial Hospital have conducted a mass blood donation drive as a gesture of showing love ahead of the Valentine made this month. Led by Ryan Lee, head of Shinchonchi Church of Jesus, the group say that this month Christians have decided to show love by donating as a sign of love to mankind.
As you know, our Lord Jesus shed his blood and saving lots of people, right? So same like this one, we also following his spirit, we also sharing our blood to the saving many as possible.
They added that the best way one can show love is by saving a life.
So we're deciding this blood donation event at the month of the Valentine.
We decided to come together with our members to show love by giving blood so that we can be able to save lives. So I'm doing this out of love to show love, as this month is the month of love.
I'm here to show love to my Kenyans people who are not feeling well. Maybe they are in the hospital and they don't have maybe any effort to make themselves heal.
Festus Koech, the regional manager of Kenya Tissue Transplant Authority, noted that country's blood bank has improved compared to the past years.
Currently, we are having a deficit of 75%. As compared to other years, we've really tried as much as possible to attain our target, which is a collection of 500,000 units per year. But last year we did 348,000, of which I believe as per at now, we are making good progress, and I believe we are going to surpass that target at the end of the year.
More than 100 Kenyans showed up to donate blood.
Being the month of Valentine's, many people choose to show love in different ways, some through giving out bouquet of flowers, but to these people, they chose to donate blood to save lives.
Thank you, Pauline Nasimiu, for that report. Now, let's look at sports, where India's Aditi Ashok sustained supreme form in the final round of the 2023 Magical Kenya Ladies Open on the PGA Baobab course at Vipingo Ridge to win the third edition of the tournament.
Aditi Ashok played a solid round of 74, taking her total for the Magical Kenya Ladies Open to 12 under par 280, a phenomenal 9 shots ahead of her nearest challenger. Aditi made her intentions clear early in the tournament when she opened her challenge with an emphatic score of 67 for clear of the next golfer. And if her opening round was emphatic, her second, where she carried 70, was solid. Her third round, where she ended the day with a round of 69, was steady, and the final round completed her 4-day streak of stellar performance. The 24-year-old came into the tournament with the disappointment of 2019 still fresh in her mind, when she came agonizingly close to winning the inaugural Magical Kenya Ladies Open, only to finish second behind Esther Hanseleit by 1 shot. Finishing tied in second place was 18-year-old April Angurasarani from Thailand, who ended her campaign with a total score of 3 under par 289 to mark her best finish at the Ladies European Tour tournament. She shared runner-up honors with Englishwoman Alice Hewson, who carried 70 on the final day to match the overall 3 under par score. Tournament favorite coming into the week, Esther Hanseleit from Germany, saw her hopes of grabbing a 3-peat shattered after ending her campaign with a score of 78 to take her total for the event to 4 over par 296, leaving her tied in 17th place. Kenya's Naomi Wafula, who made history by being the only Kenyan player to make the cut at the tournament since its debut in 2019, finished in 56th position.
Now, Morocco football success could be attributed to heavy investment in football infrastructure and facilities. The investment paid off last year when Moroccan clubs won all continental trophies for both men and women, besides the Atlas Lions finishing 4th on the FIFA World Cup in Qatar. Let's get more details with our reporter in Morocco.
The 2025 host for the Africa Cup of Nations tournament is set to be announced next week by the Executive Committee of the Confederation of African Football (CAF).
We've seen the infrastructure and also the playing surface. It is ahead of the game, and for sure it is bidding to be given the hosting of this tournament for a record second time since 1988, when it last hosted the biennial tournament here in Morocco.
We have proposed 6 stadiums. It was Agadir, Fez, Tangier, Rabat, Casablanca, and Marrakesh. All those cities have very good facilities for football, but also for hosting people. The hotels, we have very good mobility.
Among the countries that has placed their bids to host the tournament are Morocco, Zambia, South Africa, Algeria, and a joint bid by Nigeria and Benin. Morocco is optimistic in its bid and believes it will be given the honor to host the tournament for the first time since 1988. According to Omar Hayari, the advisor to the Royal Moroccan Football Federation, they have a strong bid following the country's good performance in last year's FIFA World Cup in Qatar, coupled with good infrastructure.
We will continue to share with other football associations our infrastructure, the Mohammed VI Football Complex, because if Morocco wants to be better, we need all the African football associations to be better.
CAF announced the bid last year after stripping Guinea the hosting rights after proving inadequate in its preparations.
From Fez Stadium in Fez City, my name is Dismas Otuke.
Thank you, Dismas Otuke, for that report. And that report brings us to the end of the news this morning. Thank you so very much for choosing to start part of your day with us here on Good Morning Kenya. That's where I end it for now. But do remember, you can stay tuned for more news updates in our subsequent bulletins. I will be taking a break right now, but we'll be back. And that is Victor will be back with the headlines later in just after this break, that is.
Listen up. Hello, everyone, and welcome to
changing.
How do we hear? How do we see? What makes up the air we breathe?
Let's go.
It's technology.
Let's go.
Science, you and me.
Let's go.
We're learning every day.
Let's ask, let's learn, and let's love. And don't forget to make it fun.
When can we have dinner together? You want chilled mango sago cream with pomelo, right?
Ta-da! You know what this is? Get a whip. Do you know what you've done recently?
What I've done? Vivian, it'll never happen again.
I understand your predicament. But love can never be rushed or handled like this. You're not going to figure out, no matter how hard you try, right? So the best course of action is to not do anything you shouldn't do.
Sauti ya Kenya
92.9. Hii ni KBC Radio Taifa.
Kila kitu maishani kina sauti yaleta furaha.
Radio.
Sauti ya elimisha yahimiza yatuleta pamoja. Sauti ya Kenya
Radio Taifa.
Sauti ya Kenya.
Wewe ukiangalia wewe ni customer wa Fao. Of course customer wa Fao kuna vile tunambatianga treat.
Fao ndio.
Wewe ujuiwa. Wewe baba yako ni shamba mupu ana.
Alafu nitafutia nini sasa?
Lakini saa zingine unapatishia mtu sauti mpaka watu wanazofikiria kuna vita ama fujo. Saa zingine legesanga sauti kama hadija kopa.
Lakini mama, unajua sisi tunawaelewa, tushachanuka. Wamama kama nyinyi tunaelewa, mmekuja hapa kuipa.
Hapana.
Unajifanya mama ati tutajua wewe ni mwizi.
Mama kama mzuri. Unaona hata picha yake kananga.
Why don't you want to understand that you actually...
If you really want to help me with my work, then here, you have your second job.
Why? What was the first one?
It was to leave me alone.
If I were you, I would feel much better if this veterinarian just disappeared.
Yes, that's right. That love breaks you in two. What do you think?
And have you both thought about getting married?
Getting married? Reynaldo and I?
Yes.
Then we'll have to get creative, Sergio. You must remember to plan for the good moments. We're doing it. We have to plan for it. You know there's no turning back now, right?
And welcome back. It's 13 minutes past 7 a.m. Now, before we get into a discussion, let me take you through the newspapers, but to alert you that my guest already in studio, I have got Tabitha Mutinda, who is nominated senator, already in studio with me here. There you have her, all right. And Wakili Gibson Gesore, who is an advocate of the High Court, already in studio. But before then, let me take you very quickly on the front page of our local dailies. Let me start with the Star newspaper. Raila scales up revolt as Ruto digs in on taxes. Raila scales up revolt as Ruto digs in on taxes. President says that era of tax waivers long gone in apparent attack on Kenyatta's. Ex-Prime Minister unveils new youth movement, lines up more rallies. That was that happened yesterday in Kibra. On the front page, Raila Odinga top advisors shift to Ruto's side. That is ODM leader Raila Odinga's strategic Luo Nyanza elite squad seems to be migrating towards the President William Ruto's axis with the information, communication and digital economy. Cabinet Secretary Eliud Owalo as the principal architect and prime mover. So Owalo once served as Raila's head of campaign and chief strategist. We'll be taking a look at that later on. Very quickly, on the Standard, dreams at risk. Quite different. Dreams at risk. About 1 million learners that sat KCPE last year are expected to join Form 1 today. And despite government promise of 100% transition, bright students stare at missing good schools for lack of school fees. Of course, we have got pictures of students who performed pretty well, but because of a reason or the other, they are not able to join school. Tax row, Raila says it's all wish hunt. And of course, we'll be taking a look at that. Opposition Chief Raila Odinga wants the government to stop harassing Mama Ngina Kenyatta and her family, saying that Ruto has no mandate to determine taxes and should leave the matter to KRA. On the People Daily, the front page says that tax battle hots up. Actually, it's more of a in all the newspapers. Ruto not backing down. President say that he is building consensus to remove tax waivers and encourage every citizen to pay taxes and reduce Kenya's national debt. Raila defends former First Family. Azimio leader accuses Kenya Kwanza leaders of unfairly targeting the Kenyattas and politicizing tax debate. But before I continue to the Daily Nation, let me just bring in you, Senator. First of all, good morning and welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Karibu sana. It's a heavy task, so to speak, the tax debate. The whole issue was sorted out way back in the 80s and 60s. Why now? Politics? Is it legitimate? Your take?
Thanks for having me this morning.
Karibu.
And yes, for me, it's total politics, and it's a narrative that the opposition has tried to pick up and run with it. In the previous government, this law was there.
Yes.
It's not coming in now when we have the Kenya Kwanza government. So if the opposition has nothing actually to account for and do what they're supposed to do, then this is not a topic of discussion. The law is very clear. Everybody should pay taxes. How comes this did not come the previous government?
Yes.
Why is it coming now?
Okay.
It's total politics.
It's total politics. Okay. Let me just mute. Your mic has a problem. Something slightly wrong with it. It will be sorted out shortly. But Okili, legally speaking, where are we as a nation? Who is speaking the truth?
As a nation, Victor, and thank you for hosting me this morning. As a nation, the taxes we are talking about, I mean, if we talk about taxes largely, is that everybody is entitled to pay taxes. But from one time to the other time, you find that the government does engage in waiving taxes for some reasons, either to develop a certain field or to help a certain sector to grow. There is also the aspect of what we are talking about, which is being debated, the aspect of inheritance tax, which used to be an issue back in the day. But it's no longer an issue because that was already abolished in the 1980s. Initially, there was the exemption of the first family and consecutively the second. But then that was later abolished so that no one anyway pays inheritance tax. But as a matter of speaking, taxes are something which are emotive. It's not only in Kenya. You do realize even in the US it's actually a campaign thing. If you are in the presidential ballot, you are first told to produce your taxes. There was a big issue with Trump. He never actually it was very clear about how much taxes he had paid because of the kind of tax exemptions or the way he had used the law previously to actually profit himself or to endear himself towards a certain perspective, especially in the real estate, which is big at. And so that is, I think, the kind of environment we're coming from, where people are becoming jittery that now, you know, cash is tight as a country. We need to look for every penny that there is out there. And now people are looking at even things which were already a settled issue. I think in a way it could be that that could also be an issue whereby everybody now will start paying. You remember, for example, we had the capital gains tax, which was limited to the section of Kenyans who are the net rich, who are selling their land at, or who are going to make a lot of money selling their land at 5 million. But the coming in of Kenya Kwanza government, that has since been revised to everyone. If you are selling land, you actually are entitled to pay this particular tax.
Let me get Senator's voice on this one. I hope your mic is now okay. Senator,
I hope so.
You say that it's pure politics, but then the question, according to what Wakili is saying, it's all based in what we have in the Hansard. It was passed way back in the 80s. Do you really think that politicians should now take time to politicize the whole issue? Or if at all there are certain amendments that need to be made, then the best channel is to go to Parliament or Senate?
Yes, that is the way to go. Any amendment should be either rejected or passed in Parliament. That should be brought, you know. And as you speak, the government or the opposition, or the members of Parliament in the opposition should be working. Should not be, as I said, this is a narrative that they are trying to create. And any matters taxation, there should not be discussion of who should pay or who should not pay. It is in the law. The law is very clear that nobody is above the law. Everybody should be able to pay their taxes. On this issue of Mama Ngina, when she spoke and said that if you're not paying, then you should, even your property should be sold. You know, it's not a subject of discussion. Tax should be paid. And it's purely, from your first question, it's purely politics. And we ask the opposition, I mean, let us engage in matters economy of this country, but not trying to wake up and come up with narratives that are actually creating wars, creating immaturity in the political space of it. We're in January. Parents are actually taking back kids to school today. So look at where we are as a country, looking at a personal issue, because this now is personal, because it's more of a family issue, you know, and that's not the way to go.
All right, I'll get back to that briefly, but let me take you through the front page of the Daily Nation. Arrest me, Raila dares president. Arrest me, Raila dares president. Azimio la Umoja, One Kenya coalition party leader Raila Odinga has dared President William Ruto to arrest him as he signaled looming demonstrations and declared he will not relent in his push to install, quote-unquote, a government of the people. Something quite important. Form 1 starts reporting to their schools today amidst congestion fears. Of course, the grade 6 now also reported to their respective schools last week, and now Form 1s are also taking their positions to starting today. Of course, we wish them all the best. So that is as that. All right, before you continue, Director, please just play that clip where the President was talking about tax. Rigathi Gachagua, the Deputy President, and former First Lady Mama Ngina Kenyatta. Press play.
Consensus that irrespective of your status, of all other considerations, whatever region you come from, whatever religion you profess, all of us, we have built a consensus that there will be no waiver of taxes for anybody. Sisi wote tumekubaliana kila mmoja wetu atalipa ushuru.
Wakili Gibson, your take on that?
I think I fully agree with the President because he is setting the pace that, and I think he's been very consistent. You realize it's not the first time he's talking about that. I think when he was just sworn, he dug into it and said, I'll be the first person to pay my taxes, and every other Kenyan will have to pay taxes, and that is a very positive move. So I think that's what he's trying to build on and saying, you know, previously we have had these games of people exempting themselves here and there to profit, sometimes because of being in power. they have had such circumstances. We are not going to have that. Everybody is going to pay his fair share of taxes provided under the law. And that is a very positive move. You realize the IMF and the World Bank are also very keen. They are okay on what we do as a country. Some of these things our government is trying to push for. It's not like they want. It's because of the kind of conditions they have been put into by the World Bank, because now we are operating on World Bank money. And every time it's like we are on a dose. So it's like if a doctor tells you, Victor, I'm going to give you a dose for a certain drug, but you first have to stop drinking. You first have to stop drinking and eating meat. You don't have a negotiation about it. That's where we are as a country, and we're being told that now, tighten your belt, do 1, 2, 3, so that we can be able to continue funding you. Otherwise, we'll be in a very big problem. So that's where it's only fair that everybody actually pays all the taxes which are due. And we even look for those places which previously could not be able, were profitable, or people are making a kill and they're not paying taxes. We tax them.
Senator, do you think the president saw this coming? Even because during campaigns he talked about taxes, that Kenya is a rich country, that we are able to finance our own projects, we are able to finance our own economy. Perhaps the president saw this long even before he won the election.
Let me start by saying that Article 210 of the Constitution, subsection 3, states that every Kenyan should pay tax. Okay? And on the issue of debt repayment, the president had thought through how to manage and how to pay the debt. And one of the key focus was on tax collection. He further states that room be given for formulas, for agreements with KRA on how people are going to pay their accrued debts for on their tax issues. Why? So that we can be able, as a country, to be able to continue paying our debts. At the same time, matters development where we are, and this is a docket, okay, and a very big docket that the president had focused not on how the opposition is actually bringing it out, but on how to ensure that Kenyans are paying tax. On those ones who have big debts, on how there'll be a payment plan so that the government is able to bring in this money, so that he can be able to, we as Kenya Kwanza, we can be able to achieve the manifesto is there. And when he's doing it and how he's doing it correctly, that is when the opposition sees that how do we take this and start changing the whole
tax debate. It's not the opposition.
Yes, but you see the opposition are bringing it more of individual war kinda, so that it looks negative on the president's side. But the president is looking at it on how to ensure that KRA is able to collect, and so that we can be able to sort the issues that we're supposed to sort. Yes, as a country.
If the president now is putting his voice on the issue of tax, and the two presidents, but more profoundly the Kenyatta family, we are not hearing more of the Moise family, it's more of the Kenyatta family. Somebody would argue that this is now a case of, it's now my time and you're going to feel my wrath. I'm in charge. You have to pay.
That's not the case. The case that is on table is who has brought the narrative for the Kenyatta family. It is the opposition.
Who started the whole tax debate? It is the president who started the whole debate, tax machine.
But the president, in terms of paying the tax. Yes. Let us pay tax. Let there be a formula on how we are going to collect the tax. He didn't hit on any individual.
Okay.
Yes.
Let's take a break, and when we come back, for the first time, a majority of Kenyans have never heard Mama Kenyatta speak on a live television. And even as the media, we were like, okay, when was that recorded? It was prompt. We are going to play that so that you can hear her voice one more time when we come back after this break, shortly.
ukiangalia wewe ni customer wa FAO. Of course customer wa FAO kuna vile tunambatianga treat.
FAO ndio?
Wewe utuiwa. Wewe bayako ni shamba mupu.
Alafu nitafutia nini sasa?
Lakini saa zingine unapatisha mtu sauti paka watu wanazofikiria kuna vita ama fujo. Saa zingine legesanga sauti kama hadija kopa.
Lakini mama, unajua sisi tunawaelewa, tushachanuka. Wamama kama nyinyi tunaelewa, mmekuja hapa kuipa.
Hapana.
Unajifanya mama ati tutajua wewe ni mwizi.
Mama kama mzuri. Unaona hata picha yake kananga.
Wapi? Eh? Where is she?
She's not here.
Sitawa.
Buntoka nje kabla nipige risasi huku kubabini.
Uko hapa nje?
Ni mimi na Zolani.
If we don't, tutakulipa double. Hello? Okay, thank you about it. Thank you.
Melissa yuko capable. Ni wewe utaki kumpa chance ya kugrow.
Yani, umechagua Melissa over our years together. Goodbye, Gabriel.
It's the third round of the DFB Pokal. A mini Revere derby in the DFB Cup.
Yusufa Mukoko! Lozier's in there and scores.
This is an old-school raw pot battle. 5-time winners against 2-time finalists.
Fantastic save from Gregor Kobel.
The raw pot battle. Only one can go through.
Thank you for staying with us. Right, so let's take that clip where former First Lady Mama Ngina Kenyatta spoke on matters tax.
Takiwa kulipa. Lazima hiyo vitu yako itashukuliwa, itauzwa. Si ndio hiyo sheria ya serikali? Kwa hivyo hakuna haja na ile laini ya kufanya kazi hiyo iko. Hakuna mambo ya ati kuharibia wale wengine majina nani.
Former First Lady Mama Ngina Kenyatta speaking in Lamu County on Saturday to set the record straight over tax evasion allegations.
Wakili, anytime you hear Mama Ngina speak, it has to be something with some weight. She has to come out and defend the family because now she's now the soul of the Kenyatta family. Now she's coming out to talk on matters. And what do you make of that statement? There is a process, kuna njia, that if at all there is some kind of tax evasion, there is a way to go.
I think for the former First Lady, it's quite interesting because, as you say, she hardly comes to the media. I think her and Muho, you never see them in the media. I think for the longest I saw Muho, I think once in the newspaper. But when now you see Mama Ngina coming out, it means there's something wrong. Mm-hmm. She has to, and you know, when you talk about former president and taxing, you know, that hits home. Mm-hmm. So she needs to come and set the record straight. There's that perception that they could not be paying taxes. That's what she's trying to say, that if I've not paid any tax, why don't you just prosecute me or whatever it is? I have wealth here, which you know, which you can see. Instead of muddying my name through the media or everywhere, and people think that I'm not paying, why don't you just go ahead and confiscate or take me to court? I think the clip continues. She even talks of mtu apelekwa kotini. I think she's pained by that aspect that people could be getting the wrong concept that she does not pay taxes, and that's why she has to come out clear and defend this as the heart and soul of the Kenyatta estate. So that is, I think, very important. It's motherly instincts saying now, this is war, this is not good, I have to be on the front line to defend my entire generation, because now the generation has grown. So if she does not lead by example, then I think the rest of the family members will feel threatened. So with us speaking, that is giving confidence to our family, first place, and trying to vindicate ourselves, say that, you know, I'm a peace-loving Kenyan and I also pay taxes like everyone else. And there are procedures. If somebody is not paid, would be prosecuted. I've not been prosecuted since. All I've heard is from the media. So it means I'm clean. It's only that they're just trying to destroy my name, which is, I think, a very good thing for her to do. In every family. I mean, if your family is attacked personally, I think your mother will be the most disturbed.
Exactly.
Yes, so, and will even push your father to actually say some. If he doesn't, she will speak. So.
For the sake of Kenyans who do not understand what this estate tax is all about, I'll give you time to respond to that. But, Mheshimiwa, at the end of the day, it all boils down to legislators. The matter was abolished way back in 1982. If it has to be revisited, Senator Chiragei said that he's going to write a letter to the Senate and something has to be done. Don't you think that Kenyans can be given that silent treatment so that at the end of the day, every Kenyan pays tax without touching the estate tax that now is under contention right now?
One, let me start by saying that I appreciate so much what Mama Ngina said, because she's a leader, she's an investor, and she came out actually supporting what the president is saying in terms of everybody should pay taxes. And she clearly states that then if you don't pay, then your property should be used to clear those states. So I appreciate, because she's supporting the element of everybody paying taxes, and there's nothing wrong in it. But I agree with what Wakili is saying. When as a human being, when your name is mentioned, like any leader, you'll come out and try and defend, but she defends it on the positivity of let everybody pay taxes. My colleague, Senator Chiragei, has talked about, tabling, and where what I said earlier is any amendment should come to Parliament to either be rejected or accepted. So let us see what the Senator will be bringing aboard. Where I do not agree with him, because I looked at the article, is where he says that the people, the marginalized and some regions not to pay. No, the law cuts across everybody, and it says clearly that everybody should pay taxes. So let us see what he's bringing. But for me, from where I sit, it should just focus on everybody should pay tax. Should not be excluding this, because that is what actually is bringing these issues where we're saying a certain family has not been paying tax, and other Kenyans are paying taxes, and where we stand, everybody should, despite if you're a state officer, whatever your level, everybody should pay taxes.
But why the first family, the Kenyatta family? We don't hear Moi's family being touched here.
I would say it's because of how the opposition has also brought it out. When they spoke, they are actually narrowing it to the Kenyatta family, putting in mind the previous government. Of course, we had the Uhuru Kenyatta as the president. And so what is being brought about right now, it's that name, so as to create an indication that there's friction, there's still war. And that's why in the beginning I call it immature politics. Raila has been in the 3 previous regimes of this government, and we've never had this, even from him as opposition. We've never had this coming. Why is it coming now?
Senator, who is benefiting out of all this debate?
The opposition wants to benefit.
President Kenyatta's name is being touched. He's the former head of state. It's Raila Odinga here on the spot. President William Ruto spoke about it. So who is benefiting at the end of the day?
the opposition wants to benefit by indicating, that there is war, there is a friction. They want to indicate that things are not right, that there's a problem, that the president wants also to input his name in the law and say, even me, I should not do that. They're trying to change it to look negative, and that is not the case. But the president, I'm happy, because yesterday, clearly, categorically, in the church, and I don't know why this tax issue is actually happening in the church, where everybody saying the same thing. Mama Ngina saying the same thing, and also the president saying the same thing on the pulpit of the church. In
fact, even the good book talks of give Caesar what belongs to Caesar. I mean, it's all in the good book. So, what is this estate tax, Wakili? The simplest language that a common mwananchi can understand, because perhaps somebody is reading too much politics in it. There is legislative process that was amended way back before even a majority of Kenyans were born, and now here we are talking about it in 2023.
The estate taxes are whereby, you have property as victor, you have your proteges to your family. So when you pass on, in the event that you pass on, they remain with the property. Before that, there is a process which is called succession, which is, of course, a legal process. And most Kenyan families, actually, especially the local poor, they don't do that. So it's something which we need to do a lot of civic education. So that's why most people do not understand it. So when you do have a person who has gone to be with the Lord and he had wealth, this wealth is vested in the family members. So like the Kenyatta family now, for example, you can use them when he passed on, he left them the estate. So that is the process of doing what is called succession, is where now you're supposed to pay taxes, where the wealth devolves from the owner of the wealth, who was their father, coming to the other family members, to the wife, the sons, and to the other relatives.
Yes.
You're supposed to be paying some taxes there at that particular point. And it's not bad, because us being in this particular position is because of our environment, where we are in a lot of debt, so we have to look for every penny. So if you look at it, the debate in the later stages, I'm looking at it going to spiral into the rich should be able to pay more tax than the poor. So that the tax brackets have to change, because it doesn't make sense that we pay uniformly at a certain rate, while there are people who are actually taking so much from the market, as opposed to the others. That is the kind of debate which is happening in the US, not only in Kenya, that the super rich have to be taxed, because we have to fund the activities. They have so much wealth that we cannot be able to just let them go. So they need to give something back. Okay. Actually, they put it as if it's giving back to society. So
okay. But when you hear what the president said yesterday, he said that he's now given direction to the KRA to have a negotiation and come with a repayment plan to the tax defaulters or those people who have not paid tax, so that they can pay tax. From that tone alone, somebody would say that the president is trying to back down. He's now stopping to take that center stage of the chief campaigner against tax defaulters, but now giving the mandate to KRA, the legal body mandated with this. Is the president now backing down?
Definitely not. And again, let me go back a bit and say that this tax issue is not a family issue. And let me state that it goes way back in the previous regime, where we saw the merger of NCBA, and there was tax exemption, whereby Faf's family also has shares through the NCBA. And those are some of the issues that actually do not look good, or did not look good at that particular time. And I would say that we need to improve the laws. What my colleague senator is doing is good, because that is what the law mandates us to do. We should legislate. So is the president backing off? Completely no. He's supporting, and you see in our manifesto as Kenya Kwanza, it's about bottom up. And that's why he gives opportunity in such that let there be a payment plan, so that the Kenyan, business person or whoever is not really left at a point that they cannot manage themselves. Things are very tight. There's room for that. There's room for negotiation instead of completely cutting off, So he's supporting, and we are here supporting what the president is saying.
I will like to just support what Senator Tabitha is saying. You see, the president is not backing down. There's that aspect of we need now to take a very formal process in doing this. I was with a friend of mine last evening who is in the US and was telling me that in the US it's so clear that even the smallest man, even if you demonstrate and you are told leave the demonstration stages and actually be able to go back home, and you don't do that, when they go record your face and they actually put you inside. They actually come and start processing you. The intention is not to put you, to incarcerate you. Of course you broke, but they just have to fine you, because they are also trying to weigh, if we put this person inside, maybe he's supposed to be inside for a month or two. He's not going to pay taxes. He's going to go back on his house rent. He's going to go back on a lot of things. The kids might not go to school. That's going to be a problem to the state. So we'll have kids in the streets, or this man will be kicked out. So let's give him a fine, which of course the government gains, and let him continue doing, so that we continue gaining. So that is the kind of mindset I think the president is coming from and saying, let's not, you remember the issue of Tabitha Karanja and factory. The factory was closed for the longest.
Exactly.
That was very sad. That people lost jobs. Those people were paying taxes. They could not be able to provide for their families. So we need to have that particular positive aspect that, if somebody is in business, let them do business, negotiate on now, give them a moratorium that you will be paying these taxes for over 5 years. If you agree, and KRA has actually done that. If you go, when we go litigating KRA issues, they actually say there is an alternative dispute resolution. So we're not taking you to court, but let's just get into a certain arrangement where you will tell us, we have really found that you owe this money,
but this is how it's going
to be. This is how it's going to be paid.
All right. Okay, let's
just add on to the my colleague Senator Tabitha Karanja. We had an opportunity actually to visit the plant one of the times we were in the Nakuru County, and it's really sad because from what we were shown is that the KRA is, the system is directly connected to Keroche Industries, and when they put it off, because there's a time she explained that they put it off, everything went into a mess. The bottles, got broken within the chain of the system. So you can imagine how as Wakili says, the loss of the job. The repair element, the cleaning that system, where does you take you back as a business person, yet you sat and agreed. Do you have to get into these situations? And you see, from where we are coming as Kenya Kwanza, we visited all counties during our campaigns, and we wanted to connect with the people and get to understand what is the problem. One of the key problems was the point of doing business, and that is where we are coming in, and because we understood where the shoe pinches, and that is why the president say, let there be negotiation, let there be a payment plan, and trust you me, when this opportunity is given to Kenyans, this will be the way. This will be much more beneficial to us as a country, because we will be motivating our people to keep on working, and also the country will also be benefiting by the same collection.
Mheshimiwa, you've had the privilege of touring across the country. How bad is the situation, or how good is the situation currently, economically?
We are not in a good place, but hence that is why as Kenya Kwanza we've come up with solutions. For case example, the Hustler Fund that we are offering, because we've identified where the problem is, and now we know where the solution is, and now we are doing it stage by stage, so that we are able to empower our people. And one thing I love about us as Kenyans, we are very energetic, and we tend to pick something and run with it. So all that Kenyans need is a government support system that one understands them and gives them, the support and the time to be able to deliver.
That reminds me of neighboring countries who said that don't allow Kenyans to stay in your country for just 1 month. There'll be a whole estate of Kenyans there making a kill out of that situation. Let's take a break, and we come back. I want us to talk about more on this and what Raila Odinga said. The movement is out. What does it really mean to the Kenya Kwanza government? Is Raila Odinga re-energized? More on that when we come back after this break.
Listen up. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Engine.
How do we hear? How do we see? What makes up the air we breathe?
Let's go.
It's technology.
Let's go.
Science, you and me.
Let's go.
We're learning every day.
Let's ask, let's learn, and let's love. And don't forget to make it fun.
When can we have dinner together? You want chilled mango sago cream with pomelo, right?
Ta-da! You know what this is? Get a whip. Do you know what you've done recently?
What I've done? Vivian, it'll never happen again.
I understand your predicament. But love can never be rushed or handled like this. You're not going to figure out, no matter how hard you try, right? So the best course of action is to not do anything you shouldn't do.
Why don't you want to understand that you actually...
If you really want to help me with my work, then here, you have your second job.
Why? What was the first one?
It was to leave me alone.
If I were you, I would feel much better if this veterinarian just disappeared.
Yes, that's right. That love breaks you in two. What do you think?
And have you both thought about getting married?
Getting married? Reynaldo and I?
Yes.
Then we'll have to get creative, Sergio. You must remember to plan for the good moments. We're doing it. We have to plan for it. You know there's no turning back now, right?
Kimbia ujisqueeze hapo. Watu washa move on. Watu washapata the benefit of it. It's simple as that.
Welcome right, welcome back to we are having our final end of this debate. Now, let's talk about the issue of Raila Odinga. Raila Odinga yesterday was in Kibra. That is part of his third rally in a month or so. And there was something called the Kibra Declaration. I believe next week on Friday, he'll be heading to Kambani in what they also term as a consultative meeting with the Wananchi. But let me bring you in, Mheshimiwa. At the end of the day, Raila is a politician. And his style of politics is perhaps not new to many Kenyans. The combative, the assertive, he's a go-getter. He speaks his mind. Perhaps you can say that the president should be much wary of the trajectory this movement is taking, what the president is saying, what the Raila Odinga is saying, a movement that's already been formed.
There is nothing to worry the president on what Raila is actually doing right now. Nothing completely. Because he's been the leader of the opposition for the previous regimes that have been there. The only difference right now that is happening is the surrounding. The people surrounding Raila right now, they're out of the government that they have been there for so long. And yes, they still have a lot of energy, and they're wondering, where do we take this energy? So hence the push that, do this, do that, do this and do that. You look at what is happening in terms of the meeting, the ground meeting. It's more in Kibra, Gorokocho, where the Mwananchi is, And why now? Because politics are over. We have a government that is in place and that is taking and doing its mandate. But why now and why those places? Because us as Kenya Kwanza, we really respect Mama Mboga. We really respect the hustlers, because a bigger percentage are the ones who actually give us the seats. And now the opposition has realized that the Mama Mboga is impactful. The hustler, the vijana, the youths, they have a say, okay? And so they are going back to them to cry to them. Instead of seeing how to work around and ensure that these youths are getting jobs. Not that these youths, the job that you're giving them is a payment that you're giving them when they go and throw stones or when they go and shout. Because you look at when these rallies are happening, it's during the day. It's a normal working day. But that's when they're marshaled, they're there. Because of the disadvantage they have in terms of maybe the lack of the opportunity. But should the same leaders be still taking them again? Are they going to take these young people 5 years again through the same issues? It's not the way to go. So there's nothing to worry completely. This is just a tactic, but it's completely not
As politicians,
working.
we really don't have time, because this is exactly what happened in 2017. Immediately after election, it was all campaigns.
Yes, it was a campaign, but not really 100% campaign, because our president was still doing his role to the level that he could do, because we could see definitely what was happening. But right now, where things are, it's the surrounding, it's the leadership surrounding Raila that is giving in this particular energy, and it's a narrative that they are trying to indicate and trying to throw arrows that are not hitting anywhere. So the president is firm. The president is soldiering on. The president is guided by a manifesto. Where did he get this manifesto? Let us get it clear. He got this manifesto from the people, from the Kenyans, from the Wanjiko themselves. He used to go around because meetings. He gave them an opportunity. But now the position, this is the time now, they are going to the people, and explaining problems, instead of giving them solutions. And Kenyans have no time for this. Kenyans are tired. Kenyans want a president who tells them, najua uko na deni, you have a debt, but this is your debt. Let us agree on how much you can be able to pay.
It's like double speak, because at the end of the day, you need a vibrant opposition. That is according to the president. We need a vibrant opposition.
Yes.
And now the opposition is out led by Raila Odinga, Martha Karua, and Kalonzo Musyoka. Again, now the legislators are talking about we need a structured opposition. What is structured opposition? is there something called structured opposition? Politics can be played anyhow. You attack your enemy from whichever angle. But just before you respond to that, Wakili, at the end of the day, seems like a re-energized Raila Odinga as compared to who he was during the last regime of President Uhuru Kenyatta.
Yes, this is the kind of Raila, I could say, which Kenyans had missed. This is the Raila who was pre-2017, was very combative in the streets with the Mandamano Mondays, with everything, and is trying to bring that right now. You realize Raila does speak things which resonate with common Kenyans. And people had missed that. So when he is making a comeback and the taxes are going high, you can be able to listen to Raila. Because for the longest time, Kenyans suffered and they were asking where is Raila. He was in the handshake. He could not be able to speak. So if this is going to be his comeback, then he better be doing it right, that he be consistent and be able to check government consistently. The Kenya Kwanza government have nothing to fear, or the president has nothing to fear about Raila, because he campaigned on an agenda Kenyans saw fit and put him in office. So the only thing Kenyans expect from the president is actually to see him work and provide solutions to their problem. So if you will be able to be answering Raila every now and then, Raila goes out and comes and wants to do a rally in Kibra. And the rest of Kenyans, the northern Kenya, people are angry and dying. So they are not eating the politics. So you should be able to put in mechanisms to see that when Raila is busy politicking, he should be noticed and trying to give relief food and ensure that we open a lot of irrigation projects which are going to feed Kenyans. Because at the end of the day, he's going to meet Raila in the ballot if Raila decides to run into 2027. And those are the questions you'll be able to answer to Kenyans. We gave you a mandate. What did you do with it? You can't say that Raila didn't give me time to actually pursue it. So that is, I think, something he should not be able to fear, and he should be able to push for his agenda from the manifesto, the way Senator said, so that at the end of the day, he can be able to stand before Kenyan boldly, the way he speaks boldly, which is something I admire about him, that we have done 1, 2, 3 for Kenyans, and we are not able to do 1, 2, 3 because of 1, 2, 3, so that, things which make sense. And Kenyans are very rational people. They can be able to see to it that if you say you have done 1, they should be able to feel it. They should be able to feel it on their tables and their way of life. So there's a very interesting perspective which I want to say, that if the president is going to concentrate on the local politics, we are also losing ground internationally. Kenya, recently the World Bank was rating us that Angola has already beaten us and Ethiopia has already beaten us. So these are the things he should be able to be looking at. Tanzania is busy launching groundbreaking projects and they are coming to completion. We should be talking about how we're finishing the SGR to go to Uganda so that it makes it to be more viable. How are we dealing with the northern corridor, which was the lapset, which has never kicked off properly? So how do we connect Lamu and Garissa so that we be selling our products to the Ethiopia, which is a very large market? How do we go to Southern Sudan? So these are things which can be able to change this country, and these are the kind of projects that our neighboring countries are actually investing in. And over time, when they are finished, when they are assessed by the World Bank, you find that they have gone ahead of us. If we continue doing this politics, we end up losing so much as a country, which I think at the end of the day, we will only have ourselves to blame.
Senator, one thing that Raila has been talking about quite actively is now the formation of the IEBC. His suggestion is to have a decentralized kind of selection and have a joint selection of the commissioners. We've always had an issue with the electoral agency in this country for far too long. It started with the Ruto regime, it went to Isaac Hassan, and now the latest one being the Chebukati Commission, famous the Cherera 4. And now the whole issue of now selection is where the problem is. We've had, selection panel already put in place. We have got, members of the Law Society of Kenya, the religious and all that. But then Raila still not okay with the formation. How do you think we can change all the country or even the mandated bodies to make us kind of a face, IBC, which is representative of the whole face of Kenya, that at the end of the day, as politicians, you'll be okay with the formation of IBC. The common mwananchi will have faith on that commission.
We've put an IBC, the body, and there's nothing wrong with it.
Yes.
The only wrong is when an individual feels that commission does not favor him or her, and that's where the ulabalu, starts kicking in.
Yes.
It's when Raila was did the handshake, and everything was okay. Okay, but right now where things are is where we are ready as Kenya Kwanza, because anything that we shall do will always be taken by the opposition in the negative narrative, as long as they want to put it like that. So just to take you back a bit and to say that this thing that Raila is doing, he has been doing it even during the Kibaki's government, the Uhuru's government, and whatever he's doing right now in Ruto's government. This is a game that he has been playing and expecting some results. So there's nothing new. And so even on the IEBC factor, he's already envisioning. And so he will always look at where to hit, even if the structures are okay, even if the system is just right. I think I'm right. During the ODM nominations, they had a system, okay, and it was a good system, okay, during that process. So there was embracement of a good system. So how comes right now when we are focusing on a system that will be able to constitute of a technology that people will be able to vote even from wherever they are in future, because we are going digital as a country. Why is it now not favoring you? Okay, then why are you worried? Why are you throwing in fear? And we are still in the
But what
process.
do you think that IBC should look like come 2027? That body itself.
The body should represent everybody, and you see, like right now, there was the slot for the church, okay, which was not there before. So an indication that everybody is involved. All regions are factored, and you see, what is the constitution of that body? It's a small number. So it cannot represent all the 42 tribes that we have, all the regions that we have. But there's always, because even the Chebukati team, Cherera 4 and all that, it was different representations. You cannot have everybody being in that, But what we are saying is that as Kenya Kwanza, anything that we'll definitely try to do, the opposition is doing their work. They'll always try and look, and the challenge is that it's all creating a narrative, but communicating the narrative to the Mwananchi so as to indicate negativity. I'm saying there's no room for that. There's no time for that. The energy that Mwananchi has is to see how to add the shilling that he has. How do we increase that 1 shilling to 2 shillings, from 2 shillings to 4 shillings? That's
Okay. Wakili, as a member of the Law Society of Kenya, the representation and the formation of the IBs right now, Honorable Raila Odinga is not okay with that. Perhaps he's not given his position as to how that body should be formed, but as a Wakili, do you really think that formation is so far so good?
I think the formation is good. I don't have any problem with the formation. What I want to say is that it needs to be inclusive. Once it's inclusive, it should be able to touch on, as the Senator has said, we need to have the clergy, we need to have the marginalized, we need to have the face of Kenya in that particular, and then of course the professionals. I think now we also need somebody from the only addition I think which we need to add, somebody with a professional who is able to deal with data handling. Data handling, of course, that can be done back end, but having a commission of that particular caliber will really go a long way to shaping, because now we are going digital, and digital things have got to be understood, because from the realms of the commission, you should be able to give guidance to the secretariat on how to handle because the election is largely data now. So those are some of the things we need to look at, that we ensure that it's inclusive and the people who are there are competent. I had a problem with the outgoing regime of commissioners, because it came out that everybody knew someone, and it's like they were brought in They were brought in through the back door, but though there was a kind of a process, we need to ensure that that process is very transparent. That process is one which is inclusive and brings in the best of Kenya. Because we really need the best of Kenya in that particular board.
All right. Before we come to a close, for once joining school, we all went through the system. And I think quite important, Mheshimiwa, money to the principals. They're saying that they need capitation money to be given to the schools. Haraka sana, haraka ndio best. Mapema ndio best. Watoto waende shuleni. So as they head to school, what do you have for them? It's a burden to many parents, guardians out there, but there must be some hope at the end of the day, right?
Yes, and let me just touch even on the NGCDF. And the members of parliament normally support the school initiative through the bursary, and I know that is on, and I want to give hope to the parents that the members of parliament at least would be able to have a share of the bursary. So walimu, receive the students.
It's a nice discussion here. You had a discussion with the president and the deputy president in Mombasa. What's the progress so far? Money imefika, pesa
inaingia. All is well now. All is well. There was an understanding. All is fine. And just to communicate to the schools, as you actually requested, walimu, let them receive the kids. We've had a four-year term in 2022. It's been very, very completely very tough. And then we've come to 2023 where we have students going to the next grade, students going to junior secondary, students going to Form 1. You have a candidate. It's a whole set of system, adaptation to the CBC system and all that. A lot of requirements in the CBC. So I'd urge the teachers, let there be a consensus between the parent and the teachers, but more so the teachers to be able to receive the students fast, because you can imagine the pressure that then you avert back when that opportunity is not accorded. Whatever is available, just accommodate the students, and then also the government to speed up and to be able to fund the learning institutions, so that actually this education stress and burden is a bit lowered, and parents are given now time to be able to have a payment plan with the schools. And why am I insisting on that? Because this is a generation that we are really minding so much about knowing where our youths are, knowing how the situation currently is, and all the stress and all that. So with that platform, them at least getting in these two institutions, then the rest of the things can be managed.
I had to give you the last word intentionally, because now the issue of NCDF has been a very tough issue, but then now you've heard it from her. Everything is under control, and for the parents, guardians who are taking their students, their kids to school today for Form 1, we wish all the best. And teachers, please just accommodate. It's not been so easy. Soon things will be okay. I hope so. Even us in media here, we suffered a lot. But hey, we have to do this. All right. Tabitha Mutinda, thank you so much. Nominated Senator, thank you for coming over. And Wakili Gibson Gesore, thank you for coming. Somebody said that you run for an office. I don't know which office. Law Society of Kenya.
He should.
An office is an office. I don't know which one.
He should.
Okay. Tomorrow, we are going to Mashinani. Expect Good Morning Kenya on location that is in Vihiga County, and on Wednesday we will be in Kisumu County with the governors of those two respective counties, Governor Anyang' Nyong'o of Kisumu and Wilbur Otichilo of Vihiga. What should you expect from that? We'll be live on location, so expect a lot from those two governors. As for me, good morning.
In the world that we live in, we can't avoid using the digital devices. We use them in all sorts of ways. We have our phones, tablets, laptops, and computers. And now we talk about smart devices. And the more and more we use this, we'll find that we're using smart TVs in our homes, smart appliances. We have electric meters now that are being modernized, and they're right in our houses. We have CCTV in our houses. We have more integration and connection to the internet. This is going to be part of our day-to-day. So we need to know how to, live with this technology and use it securely.
When you were all growing up, your mothers or your guardians all taught you to wash your hands when you came from the bathroom or before you ate food, because washing your hands, that personal hygiene, stopped you from contracting a disease. COVID came and we all knew that we had to sanitize or wash our hands or wear our masks or social distance. Once again, personal hygiene measures to stop us from getting infection. Coming to the digital realm, cyber hygiene, these are now habits that you need to practice every day whenever you go online to secure yourself from the cyber criminals. Because on the global average, a cyber attack happens every 39 seconds. So there are cyber criminals prowling left, right, and center. And if you don't know how to secure yourself and your information, then you're going to be the next victim of a cyber criminal. In cybersecurity, we focus on looking at risks, but the digital realm has a lot of benefits. And that's why by practicing these cyber hygiene practices, you're able to reap the benefits of digital transformation while securing yourself from criminals. And criminals are everywhere. Even when you leave your house, you don't leave your front door open, you lock it. So it's the same thing. Go online, practice cyber hygiene, stay safe.
I was brought up in the rural areas, and the first time I came to Nairobi, the big city, I was conned several times because I didn't understand that some of the people who would greet you, they don't know you, but they greet you and then they tell you stories, and then you end up giving them some money, and later on you realize it's a lie. But after living in Nairobi for some time, I got to know these kind of tricks. And even when con men would approach me, I would just laugh and tell them, try another day, because I think I've gotten to know how you guys operate. Now, this is what's happening in the cyberspace, that when people newly come into that space, you find that they don't know all the things that can happen there. Not just good things, but also things which can harm them. And if they're not given the information, you find they've been bullied, they may have lost some money, they may have lost some information and things like that. In the recent past, there have been several initiatives such as the FCDO, Kiktanet, the government of Kenya, others, have been working hard to include those persons who have in the past been left behind and make sure that they benefit fully from this technology. Now, especially as Kenyans, we all know how we have benefited from information and communication technology. We are using it to entertain ourselves, but more and more, we're also using it to do our work. It's being used for commerce, people to buy and sell. It's being used to transfer money, to save, to take loans, to do so many things. And the vulnerable and disadvantaged persons are people who are a little bit left behind in this change. Some women, people in the rural areas, some of the youth who have low incomes, some people engaged in very useful things like farming, but which in the past have not used a lot of information and communication technology. So to preempt such things from happening and even discouraging such people from using the technology, we are really keen to give them good information and to prepare them for all the kinds of things that they need to do when they're in this space, to keep safe, to be protected from bad actors in that space, and generally just to have a good experience and to benefit from the technology.
My name is Muthau Kimulu. I am a cybersecurity, counterterrorism, crisis management lawyer. On the global stage, we're currently only a handful of cybersecurity lawyers on the African continent. I may be one of the only ones. I'm also a former central banker, but I also wear the hat of a Google Women Tech Maker Ambassador.
My name is Dr. Paula Musuva. I've been a lecturer for the last 10 years. I'm a specialist in the area of information security. and I was co-opted into this project as a consultant.
My name is Dr. Catherine Gitau. My background is I was an academic for a long time, almost 25 years, finishing as the director of the School of Computing and Informatics at the University of Nairobi. I've also worked on the international stage in the area of cyber diplomacy at the United Nations. And more recently, I've been a public servant, holding high-level positions in the area of information and communication technology, finishing as the Chief Executive Officer of the ICT Authority, which is the state corporation in charge of ICT issues in the government and beyond. Well, I believe that this is a very noble initiative, and it is something for everyone. And in the next few weeks and months, there's going to be television adverts, radio, all kinds of communications on this issue that we are calling cyber hygiene. And I would encourage everyone to start adopting these practices so that they can be safe, so that they can enjoy the technology without suffering any embarrassment or any loss, and to discourage those who are really not helping us because they are misusing the technology to harm others, to steal from them, and to do other negative things on this technology. So let us all have good values. Let us use this technology for very good purposes. And at the same time, let us all adopt the cyber hygiene practices, especially stopping, thinking, and checking, so that this will become a safe space for all of us.
From an information security standpoint, we talk about three essential components that we always want to consider when talking about risk. The first is the risk to confidentiality. The second is risk to the integrity, and the third is a risk to the availability of our information systems. So we want to encourage you to stop, think, and check before you act. A moment doesn't go by before you receive that text or that call from somebody who's asking you to, confirm something or send something to them, right? Nitumie kwa hii number. What we want to ask you to, whenever you get those requests, is to first of all stop. Evaluate the request. Does it make sense? Does it raise for you any red flags? Are you suspicious about some of those things? Are those requests misplaced? Why would somebody be telling you you've won a competition if you never even participated in it in the first place? So I want you to think first. Do not respond out of emotion. Think about what the person is asking you to do. And when you're in doubt, probably the best thing to do is not to act at all. Ignore the message. Don't send that M-Pesa payment until you've really confirmed who the person is.
When you go onto these e-commerce websites, many of us are doing that. We're ordering things online, and they ask you for your personal information. I have seen that really lovely pair of shoes, and I really, really want it. It's end month. This month I'm buying myself that shoe. So I go onto my online platform. What do? Give all my information, my name, where I live, my telephone number. If I'm using a bank card, I put in my bank particulars without stopping to think. I am actually giving them all the information. How can you secure yourself against that? If it's like if they have an option of mobile money payments like we have in Kenya, where you can do M-Pesa. M-Pesa is more secure. If you're going to use your bank card, then you rather do it through a payment service for a provider who act like an intermediary between you and the seller, and who kind of secure your transaction, as opposed to giving the seller all your information. And we have a lot of payment service providers, amazing ones in Kenya and within the region, who offer those facilities. But do not go giving out all your information on these e-commerce sites, because that's where I would just garner information and use that information to once again come compromise your accounts. At the end of the day, the best cyber hygiene protector is your gut. Stop, think, check before you do anything, before you download any app, before you spend any money, before you share any personal information. Secure yourself, secure your family, secure your finances. Don't spread hate, don't spread anything. Stop, think, check. It applies in cyberspace, it applies in real life.
All right, thank you so much for sticking with us. This is still Good Morning Kenya. My name is Ram Maguko. It's a pleasure being with you on this fine Monday morning. And if at all you've just joined us, you're in time for the next conversation of the day. And we want to talk about a very sensitive yet delicate matter in the country as we speak. Matters concerning marriage, divorce, and inheritance. You can be part of this conversation and let us know what you think about these particular matters. Remember, we have the Supreme Court of Kenya ruling that we shall be discussing in a bit concerning matters on divorce and division of property. We shall be taking a look at that in a bit. Do you believe in marriage? Do you believe in divorce? Today, helping us in this conversation, to my far right, I'm with Pastor Julius Kimani. Next to him, I'm with the Clarice Mbone Osore, an advocate. And next to her is Sheikh Dr. Hassan Kinywa. Karibuni sana.
Thank you.
And of course, we just want to get straight to this particular matter. We will divide this conversation into two different aspects. One, divorce, and then two, we'll talk about matters concerning inheritance and division of property. We shall be tackling that. First things first, matters concerning divorce. And I'd like to start with you, Pastor Julius. Do you believe divorce is a solution for marital problems or marital differences?
I will say one thing. When from the foundation, when God created man, his intention was not for man to separate, because as the word says, two become one flesh. And when it talks about one flesh, it is not actually me and the woman, but the product of what comes out, the children. Now, children can never divorce their parents. A father and a mother can divorce. But now, when the children come into the picture, they bring in the aspect of the oneness of that particular marriage. Now, when divorce happens, then you are creating something that can be impossible. This child sometimes is forced to choose who they want to go with. And that becomes very, very difficult. Now, amazingly, when you look at something like divorce, it has been seen to affect even people all the way to adulthood. So the original intention was divorce not to be there. But when, of course, human beings change, so there comes a moment where divorce becomes necessary. And in the Christian context, divorce becomes necessary when somebody moves out and commits adultery. The second part is when now, of course, now the person dies. There is a third aspect where somebody cannot provide for the family. He has decided, I'm not providing, I'm not providing, I'm not providing. Then the Bible says this man is worse than an infidel.
So is divorce, in your view,
yes,
an alternative solution to some of these marital problems?
I would
say, I will ask.
Yeah, it's good. Still. I will define it in two ways.
Okay.
You know, sometimes I look at have you given it all? Have you given it all? That is a question. Because have you given it all? You know, I sometimes look at men, especially wanaume sisi. When we have a car, sometimes you find very old cars on the road. Gari mekataa kwenda, but the man will give it all until that car works. Now the question is, yes, a time comes when it may be the solution to that marital conflict. Unaona hii watu watauana, but I think it has to be tried the best.
All right.
Yes.
Okay. Let me come to you, Shea, and then I come to you, Clarice, Daktari, on that particular matter. Then you will tell us about the legal, procedures of divorce. From where you sit as a religious leader, yes, do you agree with him in regards to that particular matter? And from your perspective, is divorce something that you can encourage to a particular point?
Thank you so much, Brother Ramaguko, for this question. I will speak now as a marriage officer because I'm a licensed marriage officer by the government of Kenya. And when you go back to Islam, Islam tells us that imsakum bi ma'ruf aw tasrihum bi ihsan. That when you are marrying each other, fa imsakum bi ma'ruf, then hold to each other in righteousness. Aw tasrihum bi ihsan. And if there is a reason for you to depart, then it should also be on the best way possible. So in Islam, divorce is one of the solutions to marriages, which actually some of them can be detrimental, some of them can be very fetus if they are not looked at, and some of the marriages can cause a lot of harm, especially many times to the wife. So when such situations arise, as he has said, the issue of adultery, and sometimes also there are some conditions which men might have, or even the woman might have, and you cannot solve them. At that particular time, it's good to part ways than to stay together, because if they stay together, then you can even find others killing each other, others cutting the body parts of others. So at that particular time, then it is better to tell your wife or your husband, at this time, I beg that we part ways, but in the best way possible.
Now, the reason why I'm asking that is because I want us to put a disclaimer that this discussion isn't just for anybody. Let's agree, ladies and gentlemen. This discussion isn't just for anybody. This is for those who have tried their best. They have done their best. They have done what it takes. You mentioned that.
Yes.
You've done what is necessary. And it has gone to a point where this is either a matter of life and death. It's a matter of your mental health. It's a matter of your future. So divorce is the way. And it is recommended by the church that you divorce, and also by the religious leaders, even Muslim.
That's true.
Because there are those scenarios that they have said now, itabidi mwachane. This is a discussion for those particular group of people, not people who are saying
who are saying that they can still try a little bit.
Yeah. I heard of a story of somebody who said that I don't like bald men, and I've never loved bald men, and I married this man. He had a lot of hair, but my goodness, over time, age hit this person, and now the hair is falling off. I need to divorce him. This is not for that group of people.
No.
Maybe Pastor could confirm to us if there's ever a chance when the church tells you now you should divorce.
Yes, you've said that there is a...
No, I've said it.
The church discourages.
No, of course, you know one thing we say, and we stand from the book of Malachi. The Bible says God hates divorce. He doesn't hate the divorcee. But he hates the acts of divorce because, as he has said, number one, it violates the biggest challenge. It violates the children. Do you know, according to research done in the US, in the prisons in the US, 90% of men in prison in the US, either for murder, for rape, for violence, fatherlessness. There was no father. And this is a secular research that says father is key. So, and you find most of these children who have gone that direction is because divorce has happened. Our children learn from what they see. We're actually the models.
Yeah.
Actually, the way you behave, the way he behaves, the way I behave, the way she behaves, most of it will be from what you saw your father and your mother do. So that is why we are saying divorce is only a solution when there is threat to life,
Yes.
There is also adultery, because adultery, I think, is one of the biggest violations. You have committed to go to one direction, then suddenly unasikia jamaa kwa huko nje anakuambia nimepata kengine.
And in other words, we are saying that this is a conversation for those who are saying that divorce is the only way. This is the way out. The church has agreed, and the Muslim community has also agreed that this is now the way. And that is what we want to talk about right this minute. I want us to take a short break, and then we'll be back with the laws around divorce, the procedures of divorce, and then we find out what is the role of the church and, of course, our religious leaders when it comes to now following these religious processes. You've said that now imebidi wachane. Does the church still play a role in this particular area? I want us to take a break, and then we'll be back with more right here on Good Morning Kenya.
Next on Mpakani.
Zari.
Naburan? To recover 4 adult remains. 3 million one female.
Waharaba ini wada dintan. Waina kashake no korshada wain.
Copy. Eh? Where is she?
She's not here.
Sit down.
Buntoka nje kabla nipige risasi huku kwa ubabini.
Uko hapa nje?
Ni mimi na Zolani.
If we don't, tutakulipa double. Hello? Okay, thank you about it. Thank you.
Melissa yuko capable. Ni wewe utaki kumpa chance ya kugrow.
Yani, umechagua Melissa over our years together. Goodbye, Gabriel.
Kitwek FM, Kegosin.
It's the third round of the DFB Pokal, a mini Revere derby in the DFB Cup.
Super Mukoko! Blazier's in there and scores.
This is an old school raw pot battle. 5-time winners against 2-time finalists.
Fantastic save from Gregor Kobel.
The raw pot battle, only one can go through.
Welcome back. We continue with this morning conversation, and it's all about matters concerning marriage, divorce, and inheritance. And we've laid the foundation, and I would like to come to you, Clarice. What are the laws pertaining divorce in terms of, let's start first of all by going through that process, starting that process of filing for divorce.
We have the Marriage Act 2014 that provides for laws concerning marriage and divorce, and we have several regimes of law that provide for divorce. So we can have the marriage under the Islamic laws, marriage under the civil laws, where we go to the registrar of marriages. We have customary laws, customary marriage, and marriage under the Hindu laws. So each of these laws have different requirements upon marriage and upon divorce. But one thing is constant: there has to be consent. People have to be of sound mind and agree that this is what we want. There has to be a ceremony. There have to be witnesses, and all these other factors that make a marriage.
Okay.
So now when we come to divorce, you approach a lawyer, you prepare a petition, and you file. It can be contested. Most of the time people do not contest divorces, because by the time one party files, the other party already knows. There's really nothing to contest. The court will not force you to live with someone that you can clearly show you cannot live with in a healthy environment. Yes. And
is there a particular timeline for filing for a divorce? Is there a duration with which you are not allowed to file for one?
The Marriage Act provided that civil marriages, you have to wait for 3 years after celebration of the marriage. But we find a way. We used to do an application to show why we parties cannot proceed with the marriage before 3 years cannot proceed with the marriage beyond 3 years. So you file for divorce. But there is case law that allows parties to file for divorce. So right now you can file for divorce under the civil marriages at any point. I believe the same applies for Christian marriages. I would not know about Sharia law. Perhaps my brother could give us information on that.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
But concluding a divorce could take you 3 months to 1 year, depending on your lawyer, depending on the parties. Sometimes parties reconcile mid-hearing. So it really depends with the parties involved.
All right.
Yeah.
According to the Sharia laws in regards to divorce, what are they?
There are many rules as per Islamic Sharia on divorce. But the first thing we always tell people, one is that we are told by the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, abghadul halali ilallahi at-talaq, that the most hateful of all halal things before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is divorce. Allah does not like divorce, though he gives permission to it. Now when it comes to divorce, number one of the laws which are accepted by all Muslims globally is that divorce can be 3 times. One, before one goes to divorce, they must seek solution between the two couples. Then if they cannot solve the issue, then they have to include a party from the husband's side, a party from the wife's side. They're the ones to appoint their own parties, but it's good if they come from the family.
Okay.
If that does not happen, then they go outside. Then when it happens and there's no solution, then they give the first divorce. That's why in Islam, divorce is 3 times. You can divorce a lady only 3 times. If you divorce the first time, you have to stay for at least 3 months to make sure that the lady is not pregnant. And after 3 months, if you have not reconciled, then that divorce has already passed. So it means that's a divorce.
Oh, those are 3 stages.
There are 3 stages to reach to the divorce. Then there are 3 types of divorce.
Okay.
The first one, the second one, and the third one.
All right.
When you divorce a lady, the first one, you can return to her in a very normal manner, where you just go before the 3 months, then you can just reconcile and go back together. But if the 3 months pass, then you must marry her again, but in a very easy way. If you now return back to each other, you divorce her for the second time, then you must be very careful, because when you marry, you divorce the wife for the 3rd time, you cannot marry her till she get married to someone else and she divorce without you influencing the divorce, then at that particular time, you might go back to her. That is Islamic law.
Ram, with your permission, if I may seek some clarification. In the event the lady is pregnant within the 3 months of the first divorce, what happens in that case?
Thank you so much. That's a very important question.
I think that is also considered as reconciliation or something.
As a result of a pregnancy?
In fact, if in the 3rd month the lady realizes that she's pregnant, then the divorce has not happened till she gives birth. Either the husband, because of the mercy of the child, reconciles with her, but if that doesn't happen, then the husband must take care of this lady till she gives birth. Then at the day of the birth, that's when now the divorce has passed.
Now, because of the interest of time, there's a lot we can touch on here. Because of the interest of time, let me come to you, Pastor Julius. The church also plays a key role when it comes to reconciliation. In the scenario where couples have agreed that they are going to file for divorce, and the church has established that these two people cannot stay together, do you help them? Do you see them through the processes and the court proceedings? Do you play a role in divorce cases?
I believe one of the key things that is supposed to happen in any situation, as he has mentioned, is of course you seek for reconciliation. As much as you can, you try to help the couple through the processes of where they can reconcile. But if they have reached a place where they have to go part their ways, it's very important to seek for their spiritual healing. Because of course divorce causes wounds, it causes emotional turmoil, and especially the areas where they are neglected most are the children. Because sometimes we look at the aspect of healing the wounds of the man and the woman, but we forget the children. Now, the church takes the role of counseling. But sometimes you find, especially when matters come to marriage, there is a lot of where there has to be the willingness of the parties to accept the counseling. Because
do you counsel them to reconcile, or do you counsel them to separate?
Now, you will never sit. Like, for example, as a pastor, I will never sit down to recommend people to divorce. Because we stand on the word that says, what God has put together, no man has the ability to separate.
Regardless of the examples you gave of life and death, of adultery.
Exactly. At the end of the day, it has to be them. It is not me as a pastor to sit down and say, now, go your separate way. They have to sit down and analyze the whole situation. And if they agree to go their separate way, my work now is a pastor, it is number one to create a reconciliation with this person with God. Because one of the greatest challenges what we find as a counselor, I'm also a counselor, I have a doctorate in counseling psychology. Now the greatest challenge we find with people who have divorced is the aspect of carrying the weight of sin. They are like, I feel like I have sinned. Most of them you find, even in the churches they go, they may not be accepted in some areas. For example, they may not serve, for example, in praise and worship. They may not serve in some certain areas of the boards simply because they are divorced. And that can put a lot of emotional weight on these two. So the church works on reconciling this person to accept that they are still accepted by God.
Now, what is the church's position on this particular matter? The Supreme Court of Kenya on 27th of January this year ruled that in divorce cases, each partner should leave the marriage with property equivalent to their individual contribution on their union.
If I was, I'm not talking as a Christian. You know, I'm trying to look at as
Christianity
now
aside.
I have put Christianity
have
there.
You put your pastorship aside.
Now I'm talking like I'm thinking about it. Assuming she has come, now your side. She has come with her water. I have come with my water. Then we have put it in one bucket. Now separating the water, it becomes hard. Actually, one of the covenants that there is in marriage is what we call the salt covenant, where the salt, the one comes with the salt, comes, mix it. If you can't separate it, then it becomes very hard to separate that thing. I would agree if it was matrimony, you know, something that you inherited from your parents. You can say, hii nyumba nilipata kutoka kwa baba na mama, so this one is mine. But now, two guys have worked together. This woman every day wakes up and makes tea for the gentleman to go to work very hard, and in the evening, the guy comes and says, I've bought a plot. Now, simply because the plot is written in the name of the gentleman, the wife goes away empty. I think that one is a bit unacceptable, because there are so many women who are working hard to make sure that kids are going to school, to make sure that this man comes back peaceful. Because wengine wanafanya kazi ya kama ya polisi.
They have their own sense of contribution to the
in fact, a bigger contribution. Do you know most men who are married, hata kama wamekosana na bibi nyumbani, they say they enjoy more peace knowing that I'll go home to a cup of tea. Hata kama wamekosana.
Clarice, do you support
I believe the law is very dynamic.
Yes.
Years back, we would look at contribution in terms of not only financial contribution, would look at the contribution that the woman makes. But even as we look at the contribution that is made by the woman who is the mother, who is the homekeeper, we cannot really quantify this contribution. So there's a lot of imbalances where contribution is concerned. But times have changed. Women are working. Women delegate roles. You see, there was an imbalance a long time ago because men delegated their roles. You no longer do plumbing. You no longer farm. You no longer milk cows, so you delegate roles. Women, on the other hand, did not delegate roles. Actually, I was talking to my friends the other day when this ruling was delivered. Most of them were for it, and they are women, because we know we bring in as much financial contribution to the home as much as the man, if not more.
What if you're a housewife? You do not bring financial contributions, but you're a housewife. You're the one who ensures that this man looks pretty for work. You are contributing something. What about that housewife?
That is why you have, I think there's the issue of empowerment that comes in play for any woman that gets into a marriage, I believe. Times are changing. You cannot stay at home and expect. That is the truth. You know, you're laughing, and the laws are made by men.
Now, in the case where this woman is not empowered to go for a business, ako nyumbani, ama bwanake amemwambia wewe sitaki ufanye kazi, you stay at home. Is this woman going to be left out of this inheritance?
You know, the problem is this woman that stays at home will not even be in a position to pay legal fees to represent her in the event of a divorce. So you see, it's losing either way. There is no advocate that would take up your matter pro bono and defend you all the way to the Supreme Court like the previous case. These were properly managed people. So by the end of the day, in as much as we say there is a housewife and what have you, I think it's good to inform yourself. The same way we have premarital counseling, I advocate for counseling where property is concerned. I believe parties should see a lawyer before they settle down so that they know what their rights are where property is concerned. It's always advisable to own property jointly, especially in our scenario where most people cohabit without registering marriages. So there's a lot of imbalances that come at play that are not one size fits all. So tomorrow the Supreme Court may be faced with different facts and depart from its present ruling.
Let me get your view, Dr. on the matter.
Thank you so much. First, thank you so much to Wakili, but I will differ with Wakili where she says that no advocate can defend a lady and present her pro bono. What I say is that God willing soon I'll be joining the bar because I've already concluded my law degree. I've finished KSL. I'm just trying to finish up some exams. After that, actually, I will admit and commit myself to assist all ladies in this country who are undergoing problems and go to court pro bono. I will do that, God willing. And another case I will work on that is the issue of children protection, and the third one, mosques which are suffering. Those three wakili, I'll tell you, because since I finished my degree, I've assisted more than 1,000 people in my office pro bono.
That is...
And counseling also. When it comes to matters counseling and its family issues, many times I do it pro bono. If you have something, I will take. But if you tell me, Daktari, my husband, and this problem actually is amongst Muslims. You know, in Islam, and this is a matter, I'll be very happy if the Qadi courts, we should see some amendments in the Qadi court issues. Okay. I'll tell you one thing. Muslim women are highly suffering. You know, many Muslims, if you divorce your wife, she's only entitled for 3 months maintenance. You can imagine if you married each other and you are living in Pumwani, or you are living in Shaurimoyo, or you are living in Kibra, and then God blesses the two of you together. Then the husband has flats in the entire Nairobi, has houses in Lavington. Then he divorces you, you go back to Kibra, to your mother's home with nothing. This has to change. This has to change. And in Islam, housewife is also part of work. In Islam, being a housewife, you are considered to be contributing to the family 50% or even higher. You are taking care of the husband, you are taking care of the children, you are the one making sure that this husband goes to work. So if possible, when divorce comes, the wife actually should take more, especially if she has children, especially the house. I always recommend that it is the husband who should move out of the house and leave the house with the wife and the children. That has been my stand, and I will stand by that. And we are here to assist all women who are suffering. There are so many.
Let me ask all of you this question. Do you believe in 50-50 division of property?
Personally, I believe in it.
50-50.
But we need to look at other factors. You know, in Islam, we are allowed to marry up to 4 wives. So if I have 4 wives, then the ratio now will reduce because of taking care of the other women. So you take your share, you leave me with the others to share. So it will be a ratio of, we are now 5. Everyone will take at least a portion of the 5th.
20%.
Oh, I don't envy you.
but that one, let me say, I'll be like Pastor. That one now, I'm not looking at Islamic Sharia per se. Okay. I'm talking as an advocate. of human rights.
All right.
Yes.
Let me get from you, Pastor.
My view.
50-50?
No, I believe it. I believe. I think, number one, if you got into the relationship together, because you can never weigh. Like now, for example, you cannot be able to weigh your hours that you came over here. Like now, this interview, it's very intensive. Now, somebody at home may be saying that guy is getting famous simply because he's on TV, and he doesn't know that you have probably spent so much time researching on that. Anasema tu jamaa anauliza tu watu maswali alafu and you are contributing to those stats. somebody is getting him somewhere. No, it's somebody anaweza dharau kazi. Anasema tu jamaa tu anachekanga tu kwa show, anapewa maji pale hivi, anauliza maswali, but he doesn't know that there is a lot of research that has gone into you sitting down here and picking the minds of others. Now, on the other hand, you may go home and you find your wife sitting on the couch watching some Niger movie, but you don't realize the kind of work that she has done in that house. Iyo kuweka sofa set ikiwa sawa, iyo bedroom litoko kaenda, maybe there are some cockroaches she had to deal with in that house that particular day. There is a lot of intensity that goes to that home. I'll give an example of a lady, a guy who was criticizing the wife that she does nothing. Then she decided to do nothing for 3 days. Akapata nguo za ndani ziko hapo pale anawekaga, masocks zimekaa pale. Within 3 days the guy was like, go back to work, you're really working. So we cannot be able to quantify 50-50. But I would say, I think that would be the best way. Kama mnawachana, we patia bibi 50%, ujamaa chukua 50%. Na watu waache panganga.
Okay. Okay. You speak as an individual or as a man of God?
As both.
Clarice?
I'm going to take a different perspective because most of my clients, it's the women that pay the bills and run the homes. So I definitely go on in order of contribution. I would not go for 50-50. I'm telling you, we are moving into a different, and that is why I'm talking about women empowerment, more than women staying at home and hoping for 50-50. 50-50 cannot work because the women are the ones that are bringing home the bacon.
Wow.
Yes.
But
so,
now, I'm looking at that. Now unaenda 50 when the lady's at home and demanding for 50, the man works so hard and he comes up and says, okay, I give you the 50. Now the woman here now brings the bacon, and because she's bringing the bacon, and probably the guy now doesn't have a job, but he's taking care of the plumbing, the electricity, kupanda juu, kuripia mabati. Now suddenly he's told, you are house husband, you are useless, you can't get my 50. But when I'm working 100% and coming home to a wife who is staying at home, then she gets my 50. I don't know.
I do not think men no longer do any plumbing in this era. People pay for these services. But that as it may, I think we should come from a point where we seek to empower women. He has indicated that once he is admitted to the bar, he will do a lot of pro bono. Around the last time I was there in 2019, I did a lot of pro bono. I almost had to go for therapy. You see, because now if we do not encourage women to empower themselves and earn an income and bring something home, in the event of a divorce, they will suffer the most. That is the reality. So how many women are we going to help? How many children are we going to help? Husbands die. So what happens in the event a husband is dead and you're a housewife? You see, we have to seek solutions instead of just wanting to give people freebies where legal services are concerned and what have you. Let us empower each other. And I think the law is progressive. That is why it is saying in according to, the property will be distributed according to contribution. I think I agree with that. Because in the event, let's say a wife is a housewife, he has 5 wives, then distributing this among 5 wives, I think it's really unfair because the woman runs the home.
All right.
Thank you so much, Wakili. First, we agree that the maximum is 4 wives, not 5. The second thing, I think that there should be a lot of public participation as far as this law is concerned. True. Because of culture. You know, you might speak this if you come maybe from central Kenya, where now women are highly progressed in a way, but you go to Northeastern, you go to Coast, where, as we speak, many of the women there are housewives. And you look at a man who has almost 1,000 cows or camels, but those cows are being cared for by the wife. So this is where the challenge comes in. You find you go to the Maasai land also, you go to Turkana. So this is a discussion which actually should have a lot of discussion, a lot of negotiation.
There are so many dynamics around it.
Because if we just talk of 50-50, then there are many communities which will suffer.
Wow. Clarice, you mentioned one particular point, and this is my final question, because I'm told time is not on our side. We should continue with this next week.
This needs more time.
This needs more time. Needs more time. But you mentioned something. In the event where a man dies, what happens in regards to mother's inheritance to the family? What is the position of the church, Pastor Julius?
I believe the way it's supposed to be, when a man dies, the inheritance automatically goes to the woman and the children who are left behind.
And what about those who are from the second marriage?
Now that is where again we have to look at the balance. Number one, I actually say, if you are going to marry a second wife, you need to consider what you had gotten with the first wife.
Okay.
So that now the contribution, as you are saying, the contribution of the second wife, amekuja akapata mkona 500 million. Now she comes from there, maybe in that 500 million I think should not go to her, because you labored with your wife and with the support of your children.
Clarice, let me come to you on that.
You talked of us. Ram, I think the issue here is we are not talking about what actually happens on the ground. I believe in the event of death, no one considers what someone acquired with the first wife. There'll be a lot of wrangles in that family. But I believe where the law is concerned, we have to look at was the second wife legally married? Because how is this second wife coming in if the marriage was monogamous? You have to prove dependency. There are a lot of issues. I think if we do not have time, we do not have to delve into it, because the succession is a whole different...
That's a whole thing.
Yes,
and that's why we're talking about marriage, divorce, and inheritance.
Yes.
Yeah? That's a whole spectrum.
It's an entirely different spectrum. You have to prove dependency. I think children can benefit from a diseased person's estate, but if you're a wife, I think you have to prove that you are a wife recognized under the law.
Just briefly, Sharia law in regards to that particular issue?
Thank you so much. I think as far as inheritance is concerned, Islam is the best in this globally, because it is automatic. There is an automatic calculator that if a husband dies, then a wife gets a quota if she has no children. If she has children, then the calculation changes.
And in the case where you have other women, like you have 4 wives?
When that happens, then the calculation differs again. What I must say, my brother, I think it will have been better if we have the issue of inheritance in itself, because it's a very huge area.
We are going to pick that next week.
But realize that in Islam, even if a cabinet secretary dies or a president dies, the matter is solved in only 3 days. Because it's automatic. How much do you have? Everyone, a boy gets 2 times the daughter.
Thank you, Dr.
So unfair.
No, it's not fair. We'll come and discuss this and realize that it's not fair. Because the lady gets from the father.
I will not allow you to proceed.
I wanted to ask him a question. In the event that a Muslim man has 4 wives and children, is there ever a possibility that there's another outgrower out there?
And we will find out about that next week. We will find out about that. And that is what brings us to the end of this morning conversation right here on marriage, divorce, and inheritance. A big thanks to Pastor Julius Kimani. Thank you so much for coming.
Asante.
A big thanks to Clarice Mbone Osore. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ram.
And Dr. Hassan Kinywa Sheikh. Karibu sana.
Asante.
And I'm grateful to each and every one of you for tuning in. We proceed with this conversation again next week. Remember, we have not touched on so many things. This is so deep. Divorce can be discussed on its own, inheritance on its own. But anyway, God will give us grace. I hope that you've learned something. Let's take a short break. We'll be back with more. Dorina Rangi is coming back right here on GMK. My name is Ram Maguko. It has been a pleasure.
Listen up. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Engine.
How do we hear? How do we see? What makes up the air we breathe? Let's go! Let's go! It's technology. Let's go! Let's grow! Science, you and me. Let's go! We're learning every day.
Let's ask, let's learn, and let's love. And don't forget to make it fun.
When can we have dinner together? You want chilled mango sago cream with pomelo, right?
Ta-da! You know what this is? Get a whip. Do you know what you've done recently?
What I've done? Vivian, it'll never happen again.
I understand your predicament. But love can never be rushed or handled like this. You're not going to figure out no matter how hard you try, right? So the best course of action is to not do anything you shouldn't do.
Abantu ba Mintombo Yamore.
Your favorite KBC station, Minto FM, is now at your doorstep. Enjoy the hottest KC music, informative and entertaining shows, and reliable news only on Minto FM. Tune in to Minto FM on 91.7 FM in Nyamira, Kisii, and its environs. Minto FM.
Ukiangalia wewe ni customer wa Fao. Of course customer wa Fao kuna vile tunambatianga treat.
Fao ndio?
Wewe utuiwa. Wewe bayako ni shamba mupwa.
Alafu nitafutia nini sasa?
Lakini saa zingine unapandishia mtu sauti paka watu wanazofikiria kuna vita ama fujo. Saa zingine legesanga sauti kama hadija kopa.
Lakini mama, unajua sisi tunawaelewa, tushachanuka. Mama kama nyinyi tunaelewa, mmekuja hapa kuipa.
Hapana.
Unajifanya mama ati tutajua wewe ni mwizi.
Mama kama mzuri. Unaona hata picha yake kananga.
Why don't you want to understand that you actually...
If you really want to help me with my work, then here, you have your second job.
Why? What was the first one?
It was to leave me alone.
If I were you, I would feel much better if this veterinarian just disappeared.
Yes, that's right. That love breaks you in two. What do you think?
And have you both thought about getting married?
Getting married? Reynaldo and I?
Yes.
Then we'll have to get creative, Sergio. You must remember to plan for the good moments. We're doing it. We have to plan for it. You know there's no turning back now, right?
Exactly 10 minutes past the top of the hour, you're right in time for our Family Check conversation. This Monday morning, we'll look at the changing face of FGM, the interventions made, particularly by the states, the loopholes that still exist as far as curbing the vice that is FGM. My guests are here. They'll be helping us slice and dissect this topic in like the next 30 minutes. I'm joined in by Anna Katuki to my far right, who is a Plan International Kenya Gender and Inclusion Advisor. Also, right at the center is Alice, who is a Plan International Kenya's Girl Advocate from Kajiado County. Ladies, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having us, Dorian.
All right, let's just very quickly begin by understanding what this is all about. I mean, there's so many interventions that have been made. I was just telling you earlier, Anna, how the previous regime was so big on ending FGM, and the proposal then, when they began, the talks and looking into FGM in 2019, was to end this by 2022 December. But here we are, 2023.
Very true, Doreen. And thank you for this opportunity. Yeah. I think into it is that as a country, we have made strides, I think, from various reports, even from the recently released demographic and
survey?
survey that was released by KBS recently. When you check from 1998, we have moved from, high of 38% of prevalence to a low of 15% in last year, 2022. And that coupled with the efforts that I think the previous regime that put out when there were, commitments made around the, Gender Equality Forum that was, tasked in terms of pushing this ahead. So yes, as a country, we've done strides, but that said, we still have a lot of work to do. Factors around the issue of increasing population. So even as the rates are going low, we still have a high number of young girls that are coming up. That means that again contributes to complexities around FGM rates.
I hear you.
Right.
And of course we'll come to some of those interventions, look at the complexity therein. There's a lot to discuss, especially as far as FGM is concerned, and even just from a stakeholder, you're telling us more about that momentarily. But then Alice, kutokea pale Kajiado, hii ni kaunti ambayo amongst various other counties huwa tuna report kesi nyingi sana za FGM. Wewe kama advocate, so far ni nini haswa umefanya kuhusiana na hii jambo la FGM?
Thank you. Kama mimi kama girl advocate, juzi tu tumemaliza, kama vile tulikuwa shule, nimekuwa nikiongea na wasichana wenzangu kuhusu mambo na FGM, muongea effects zake. So tumeongea tu vile tutajaribu vile as we are changing, tuongee na boys ndio at least wakubaliane na wasichana vile the world is changing. So nimejaribu kuongea nao, tumekuwa na talks. Sometimes pia tumekuwa na church tukiwa church, tuongea na youth wenzangu kuhusu mambo na FGM, and at least wasichana sasa wana change. Hata pia vijana kuna wenye wamechange, wanakubaliana na wataoa pia wasichana. Unajua most of them wanasema hawataoa wasichana wenye hawajatairi. So at least they are changing. So nimeongea na wasichana wenzangu, tumeongea effect, tukaongea mambo pia na venye tutachange. Yes.
So ukiongea nao ni nini hasa wewe huwa unawaambia? Because umesema kwamba hata kuna vijana wale ambao wanasema hao hawatoa wasichana ambao hawajatairi. So una realize kuna a lot of culture rooted kwa especially hizi communities. So ukiongea nao nini hasa wewe unawaeleza?
Sasa unajua most of them wanasemanga hii ni right of passage, wana have kuenda through it. So ni lazima tunaongea nao, tunawaambia kuna right of passage pia ile yenye unaweza enda Christian way na Christian way. Yes. So tumeongea nao kwa sababu unajua FGM sometimes iko na effect that our wasichana immediately wakikuwa wakitairiwa, most of them wanaona they are women. So sometimes hata unapata wengine wana drop out of school kwa sababu they believe they are women. Sometimes wengine pia wanaolewa tu hivi immediately kwa sababu mzazi anakuambia wewe umekuwa mwanamke, so unaolewa. So nimejaribu kuongea nao waachane na story ya FGM kwa sababu unajua pia kwa Kimasai kuna word msichana kidrop kama hujatairiwa, kuna jina ambayo unaitwa. So huwezi jaribu kudrop. So hiyo unajua hiyo
kudrop unamaanisha vipi?
As in kuwa out of school, yani kudrop, kupata mimba. Unajua mostly sasa ukiwa umetairiwa una believe wewe ni mwanamke. Sasa immediately tu most of them wanakuwa involved kupata hiyo mimba. Ama most of them pia wazazi wanasema waolewe juu wamekuwa wakubwa. Yes.
I mean, Anna, when you listen to this, there's really quite a lot of culture deep-rooted as far as ending FGM is concerned. And even when you look at today, we are marking the International Day of Zero Tolerance to FGM. And this is marked every other year on the 6th of February. Does this even help? Having it commemorated on a yearly basis, to what extent?
It's a very good question. And yes, it does help. because it's very important to have the conversation live and going in terms of keeping the discussion alive. So yes, we have a lot of change that we have seen. We have seen, like for instance, at Plan International, we have integrated programs around empowering men and boys. In what way? In a way that we teach them to apply positive masculinity. What does that mean? It means that it's true as a man, there are responsibilities and what you were taught when you were young. And a lot of these things were extreme in terms of you're not supposed to cry, you're not supposed to be weak. But what we want now is for them to appreciate that the women in their homes are their daughters. The women in their homes are their mothers. The women in their homes are their wives and neighbors. So it's very important once we work on something around changing how people think, changing people how they behave. So how do we do this? Through our programming. We engage them through various programming. So for instance, when we go to schools and we have groups that we have formed for boys, for girls, we also bring the boys together to explain to them that it is okay for you to marry or to be a friend to a girl who has not undergone FGM. They are human beings. And the reason why this conversation should be commemorated, because when you look at it, the statistics are that 200 million girls so far have gone through FGM.
Yeah.
So that, look at it like this. 200 million people walking around with no nose, no eyes, no ears. That's a whole pandemic. Because when the parts of their genitalia are removed, parts of their body are removed. It's the same thing like cutting your ear, your hand, and to walk around with it. So that means this conversation is very, very important. The statistics now is that 4.23 million girls are at risk of going through FGM. So we cannot afford to keep quiet.
That's in this year only.
That is in 2023 alone. So the conversation has to keep on going. It's very important because the effects, the implications go beyond the pain inflicted on a young child, on a young girl, on a young woman. Because this is going to an extent where if they drop out of school, if that girl was going to become someone important in the economy, we are losing human resource. If that person was supposed to uplift the society or the family they come from out of poverty, that means we are rotating around the same place. And when you compare from the international landscape, it will become very hard for us to be able to compete because we are losing the people that should be able to support us economically. And I think, Doreen, just to add, there is also another aspect around medical effects, financial burden.
Just hold it there. We'll come to that in a bit. But just to elucidate a bit on what you've talked about, especially when it comes to that data, we are looking at 200 million girls. That is the data we have. And just as you rightfully said, in this year alone, 4.32 million globally. As we speak, WHO has already categorized this vice as one of those things violation against human rights. And so then I'm trying to understand, when we look at the glaring grooming statistics, even what the world standard has already categorized, why do we still have these high numbers? Just how much is culture so much deep-rooted into this vice?
Absolutely, yes. There's something called social and gender norms. This is basically how a society is fabricated and how we bring up our children. It's very strong because I have to say this, it stems into patriarchy. Patriarchy comes around the issue of power bearers, influencers. So we have in society, in terms of demand and supply, look at this. Women, girls are not the consumers of FGM. So it may be hard to say, but men are considered as it is the consumers of FGM. So in terms of culture, it's very important. When you look at the communities that we have in Kenya, a lot of them, and some of them are not even reported, practice FGM. So I think Alice has mentioned the issue of rites of passage. Like this is what our forefathers did. So to bring someone to a level where they understand that something their forefathers did and you want to change it, that means that you have to sit down with them and undo and learn and relearn the culture that they have learned.
I hear you.
The other aspect is that a lot of people consider this a form of identification. And even as now we are in a liberal world, you find that young people like association a lot. And as long as I feel the group that I am in school or in college has gone through FGM, then if I've not gone through FGM, it means that I don't belong anywhere. And that means that I feel out of place. So for me to be able to fit in, I have to follow this rite of passage to be able to belong. What does this do to a human being, a young girl in the society? We are still continuing with the cultural practice that we are trying to deal with. So yes, it's very important to be able to address this. Like I've said, one of our main aspects of doing this is working with men and boys. The other thing is that we are working with young advocates like Alice here. So we go to schools, primary schools and high schools. That is where a lot of inculcation of information happens. So we want to share with them positive information that you do not have to go through FGM. They need to be able to understand they can be a full human being without going through FGM.
I hear you. Na Alice, naona kwamba ukiagri sana na vile Ana anasema wale ambao wanaona hawaja go through the cut, they have not been circumcised. Mtu anaona ni kama hayuko part of the community, hayuko part of the society, ana feel ni kama ako left out. Hata ule wakati ambao unaongea na hawa wasichana, mambo kama haya huwa inajitokeza kwamba mtu anaona yes, umemuongelesha, ushamwambia FGM ni mbaya hii na hii, lakini anaona tu mwisho wa siku lazima bado niende nikafanywe hii practice. Umekutana mambo kama haya na kama advocate unadeal aje nayo?
Yeah, nimepatana nayo kwa sababu sometimes unajua ukiongea na hao wasichana, most of them kuna unajua kuna tu pale high school village, most of my talks tumekuwa nikifanya time nikiwa high school. So sometimes unapata unaongea na wengine already washaenda through FGM. So
wana feel already ni adults.
Sasa ile like ukiongea nao hawafeel kama kuna kitu nawaambia, yani unaona kama una neglect culture yao. So but kuna yani vile naambia, na mimi huwa naambia some of them now that wewe kama wewe ulienda through, you know, sisi ni generation yenye tunakuwa. So nilikuwa nawaambia hata kama umeenda through, we can change. We can still change your younger sisters. Una change situation yao pia, ukatane nao kwa sababu ya zile effect wana effect za FGM. Yeah.
Personal story yako ni gani? Because one may just be wondering, mbona uko na passion hivi sana na issues za FGM? Inatokea wapi?
Mi passion yangu na FGM ni time tukiwa high school. Kwa napenda most of the time, unajua sasa kuna ile counseling section tunakuanga nayo za mnaongea, wasichana mnaongea. So your times tukiongea nao, nilikuwa nimekuwa selected to champion for the year rights. Nilikuwa passionate sana kuchukia mambo na FGM kwa sababu iko na lot of effects.
Aside from the effect, kuna mtu ambaye unajua, a close relative, a friend mwenye undergo the cut, and so ikafanya we kama Alice uone the need na importance ya kuchampion for issues of FGM?
Yes.
Okay. So it also comes from a deep personal story.
Yeah.
So ukakuwa selected to be one of those advocates kuongelesha hawa wasichana ukiwa bado pale high school.
Yeah.
All right. Na ulianzia tu bado hapo high school kuongelesha.
Yeah.
There's something that I'm really reading a lot, Anna, and borrowing also from Alice's story. And when you look at also the county that she's coming from, Kajiado, I was just telling you earlier that as far, not even so back, 2021, glaring statistics that about 78% of FGM cases normally reported from this specific county. So you realize that there's a lot of prevalence from some specific counties. Look at counties of Kajiado, Tharaka Nithi, Kuria. I was like, one might wonder, is there some form of specificity when it comes to counties and this practice? What is this as an advisory? How do you see it?
Yes, there are similarities, but there are also other extensions relating to the geographical coverage of the areas. So in terms of culture, a lot of it plays a role. For instance, when you go to Tharaka, you find male community leaders. They could be Jorijeke, they could be, area leadership and that kind of thing. And over the years, you find that for them it is agreed that girls should go through FGM, and they hold the power in terms of even if you don't go through it on your own volition, they'll still be able to force you through. So that culture of patriarchy and men being at the point where women have no voice at all in terms of choosing their sexual and reproductive health and human rights as dwellers in that area. It's something very pertinent. When you go to another aspect, for instance, when you go to Kajiado, we have been working there as Plan International for some time now, and you find that sometimes, because girls want to leave school and be married off, sometimes anger, lack of food, drought, lack of water. What does that mean? Because where I come from, our household, we do not have food. Maybe when I go through FGM, then I can be able to get married to someone who is rich and be able to... So there's an aspect of poverty. Poverty at very high levels contributing to this. Because if I can see my classmate that went through this Seniors Act and they were able to get married to someone. So those are cultural aspects. But that aside, as Plan International, we have partnered with several community leaders, from the girl advocates, from women group, from and FGM board, which has been championing a lot of efforts around here, and also like-minded organizations. So what do? We ensure that, for instance, during this crisis, we are able to respond in a way that we keep girls in school, so that they get another alternative. When you talk about alternative rites of passage, like Alice is referring to, so before they are able to be taken off school, we can be able to provide them with food, with other safety nets for them to be able to stay in school. The other thing is that we do community-tailored engagement to these groups, and we have had a lot of successes. We have had a lot of women who are champions and leaders and cutters who have given up that way of life. We've supported them through other channels, because a lot of them would be claiming, if I do this activity, I get income. So when you take it away from me, so they may doing it, they may know that it's something bad, but because that's a way of livelihood. So what we do is that we support them through other mechanisms for them to be able to drop the act and be able to even champion against FGM in the areas where we are working.
I hear you. And I'm also reading a lot of an economically empowered society, because I remember I did a story in 2021, it was in Tharaka Nithi, and the majority of the ex-cutters you speak to, they will tell you, just as you said, if I leave this practice, then what becomes of me? How do I feed my family? How do I feed my children? How do I even take my children to school? So just as we talk about culture, I believe we should also not forget about the aspect of empowering people economically. So then you don't have to rely on poverty as the sole reason as to why you would engage in such a vice. And something that you mentioned, which is very important, and I want Alice to respond to this, that and you gave the example of Tharaka Nithi in respect to the injury cheke, that ukiangalia hata hawa wanaume, they have a very big role to play. And you also said that you also talk to boys and some of those, young men. Unawaongelesha vipi? The reason why I'm asking this question, Alice, is because is it 3 or 4 days ago, hii story tumeisikia tu pale Migori, a girl whom the brothers ndo walikuwa hata wanamchukua, wanampeleka kwenda undergo the cut. The girl had escaped, come to live with a friend or a relative, but venye shule zilikuwa zinafunguliwa, aende achukue vitabu na nguo aende shule. Lakini brothers wake ndio walikuwa wanamchukua kwenda kupeleka kufanya nini? Kukatwa. So hawa vijana wao unawaongelesha vipi ili wao waweze pia kuelewa kwamba hili jambo si jambo ambalo linafaa kwa likifanywa wasichana? Wewe unaongelesha vipi? Unawaambia nini?
Sasa unajua tukiongea nao vijana, tunaongea nao effects ya FGM, tunaongea pia nao pia unajua sasa wamesoma, wako shule. Sasa most of wao watu au wanaume wenye hawakubali hawawezi kubali mambo na yani wanataka tu lazima mtu apitie mambo na FGM. Ni most of them wenye wako educated. Sasa unajua ukijaribu kuconvince hao wenye wako educated watakubaliana na wewe, kwa sababu unajua sasa ni ile unawaambia waone tu kama girl ako tu normal. Si lazima eti aende through FGM ndio akuwe sasa eti normal woman. Sasa most of them wanasema you have to go through the cut ndio kuwe normal woman. So ukiongea nao most of them unajua tukiongea nao most of them boys that wakubali that msichana atakuwa tu bado sawa, atakuwa tu kama mwanamke kama wale wengine wenye hajatairiwa, unajua itakuwa easy, kwa sababu most of them sasa wakikubali, unajua msichana labda atasema for example lazima niende through the cut ndio nikubalike kwa society kuoleka, ama labda niache kukuwa discriminated eti sijatairiwa. So hao wanaume tukiongea nao wakubali, because most of them sasa wanakubali juu wamekuwa educated. Sasa inakuwa rahisi sana. Kwa hivyo ilikuwa ngumu hapa awali kwa sababu most of them or not even most of them, but some of them hawakuwa educated. So your lack of education is also a factor. There's really quite a lot of factors as far as ending the FGM vice is concerned. You realize there's a lot of culture issues, economical empowerment issues, education issues, and there's something that I also want us to talk about before we exit this space. You have like what, 2 minutes or even is it a minute before we exit? But before we sit down for the next program, talk to me about the medical implications of this. Maybe if you understand how it affects even a woman's body, we might start to see the need of not engaging.
I think we have had a lot of very disheartening stories of where women, girls who have gone through FGM have had difficulties giving birth. We have had a whole movement around fistula and treatment. So in terms of medical implication, I think the tray is so full in terms of a lot of women and girls who go through FGM. Once they are married off, and they get pregnant, a lot of them lose children, and by the time they're taken to hospital to get attention, it is too late. So a lot of them, if they're admitted or something like that, it means that they have to sell all their income or any income generating assets at home to be able to pay for their medical bills and that kind of things. We have seen a lot of births that are resorted to many disabilities because women went through so much hard labor and were unable to give birth. Bad? It's really bad, and we've seen in areas where we're working as Plan International where a lot of children are disabled because someone was in labor for 7 days. They are being told you have to wait for the traditional birth attendant for them to be able to cut you with a razor, whichever way.
So that what happens?
So that the baby can be able to come out, because once they are cut, there are different forms of cut of FGM. A lot of them close up the woman to an extent where not even anything can be able to go out. Of course, the intimacy the sexual intercourses are very painful. The birth are very painful. So in terms of medical implication, it's very high. The other thing that I think is coming around is the fact that as we talk around the issue of FGM, we also need to be aware to the fact that because we have achieved a lot of milestone in this work, there are also other creeping issues around something called medicalization of FGM, where now because we have empowered girls, we have empowered men, the rates have reduced from 38%, 15%. Now a lot of people are using other avenues of undergoing FGM in the medical facilities. So what does that mean? It means that we have a lot of work to be able to work with all partners to ensure that.
Do you mean that there's some people who are using the medical?
Yes, a lot of, as we know now, FGM traditionally is done in the villages, in the bushes, in isolation. But because there have been government efforts, like we started by mentioning, we have laws that are in place. We have the national, policy on GBV. We have the Sexual Offences Act. We have the Child Act, which we, as Plan International, we supported. So there are a lot of the avenues that were available are becoming smaller and smaller for people that want to practice FGM, which we know has no medical benefits in any case. So what is happening is that parents are taking their children to medical facilities to undergo FGM. So that means the statistics that we have need to be reworked in terms of us partnering with facilities to be able to extend the...
So then what are we doing? I mean, we are trying to curb the vice, and you mean to say that there's some form of conniving even with some section of medics?
Very true, very true. And the reason why it's important is because sometimes we may get statistics as a country. The practice is reducing, but in terms of specific counties, the rates are going up depending on the population and those kind of things. Yes, in terms of people seeking alternative means, because the area administration, the leaders, communities, a lot of them have been empowered. They know it is not a good thing to to have a girl go through. So what they do, they use other channels where they go and get, go through the car, take their children.
Allow me just to butt in, Anna. I really want to understand, because also Alice talked a bit about that. And yes, you are equally saying the same, that this is a vice that has been shunned, done away. In fact, we even have a law in Kenya that bans that. It is very wrong. We are looking at interventions and sealing the loopholes. And yes, Alice did touch on education, na kusema kwamba vile ambavyo anafunza hata hawa vijana as an advocate, the boys, so then they do not really do this because the lack of education back then was also a biggest impediment. But then they are educated. These medics are educated. So then how would you still do it even with the knowledge that it is wrong? Why? Is it because of economics, that you want to empower yourself economically? Because you already know it's wrong and you're educated about it. Why are you still doing it? From what you've gathered, why is it happening?
The information available is that parents will go to medical facilities, since we have been, blocked out to do it as a cultural, in our own way that we do in the villages.
Yes.
I can bring my child here. I will explain to you what you need to do, or whatever you need to do. Let the child go through FGM. So in a way, they are thinking, because the explanation we have had is there's been, people would say when you go through FGM, you bleed to death. So someone will say, if that bleeding to death is the issue, then maybe I go to hospital, I will not bleed to death. All right? So yes, the medical facilities, the medical attendants have the information. The issue of economic, need for them would be an issue that we need to discuss. But I think going back to where we started, if you look at, for instance, when we were hit by pandemic, a lot of us, we didn't know that we would wash hands. We didn't know that you're not supposed to greet people with your hands and those kind of things. And within 2 days, everybody adhered to those protocols. So it's the same way, if we are able to sustain this and there's enough channeling of information, finances, to be able to share this information with the people that are concerned. The male in our communities, the boys in our communities, the girls and the women, everybody involved, that there is no benefit at all to FGM. If we are able to look at the pain, and of course, that said, respecting the dignity of anyone that has gone through FGM, but be able to explain very clearly that whether through from a medical facility in the bush and those kind of things, there is no benefit at all, of FGM, especially to the girls.
I hear you, well said. And I want to give you the last word, Alice. Today is International Day of Zero Tolerance to FGM. Unataka wasichana wajue nini? Vijana wajue nini? Unataka kuambia vipi?
Ningependa kuambia kwamba they should just as kama vile sahi vile tunaona, unajua most of them atunge wa blame ile time kwamba FGM walikuwa wanafanya kwa sababu hawakuwa na education. Now that tumesomeshwa, most of both boys and girls, most of them tumesoma. Now that tumesoma, I want them at least wajaribu kuchange. Najua wao boys, most of them wakichampion that girls should not go through FGM, itakuwa rahisi sana. So I want boys boys should champion for this, and itakuwa rahisi sana.
I hear you. Thank you very much, ladies, for your time. Highly appreciate your valuable inputs into this conversation. And indeed, it's a consolidated effort. If we have to end the FGM vice, it's consolidated effort. Right, I have been speaking to Anna Katuki, a Plan International Gender and Inclusion Advisor, also Alice Salaita, who is the Kenya Girls Advocate from Kajiado County. Of course, what has formed center of our conversation is the changing face of FGM, looking at the efforts made by the state so far, the existing loopholes as far as ending FGM is concerned, and just what more we can do as a society, even as we mark the International Day of Zero Tolerance to FGM. Good place to end this conversation, and ultimately, good morning, Kenya, from me and on behalf of the entire team. Asante sana. Till tomorrow, good morning.
Maisha ni mafupi, hivyo si vyema kumaliza muda mwingi katika malumbano. Hesabu baraka zako, wathamini rafiki zako na tabasamu ili udumishe amani.
Kupata maisha, bonyeza *811 *816 *811 *816
Wewe ukiangalia wewe ni customer wa Fao. Of course customer wa Fao kuna vile tunambatianga treat.
Fao ndio?
Wewe ujuiwa. Wewe bayako nushamba mupu ana.
Alafu nitafutia nini sasa?
Lakini saa zingine unapatishia mtu sauti paka watu wanazofikiria kuna vita ama fujo. Saa zingine legesanga sauti kama hadija kopa.
Lakini mama, unajua sisi tunawaelewa, tushachanuka. Mama kama nyinyi tunaelewa, mmekuja hapa kuipa.
Hapana.
Unajifanya mama ati tutajua wewe ni mwizi.
Mama kama mzuri. Unaona hata picha yake kananga.
Next on Mpakani.
Zara.
Naburan?
We recover 4 adult remains. 3 male and 1 female.
Waharaba inay wada dhintan. Wayna kaashakeen no qorshada weyn.
Copy. Eh? Where is she?
She's not here.
Sit down.
Buntoka nje kabla nipige risasi huku kwa ubabini.
Uko hapa nje?
Ni mimi na Zolani.
If we don't, tutakulipa double. Hello? Okay, thank you about it. Thank you.
Melissa yuko capable. Ni wewe utaki kumpa chance ya kugrow.
Yani, umechagua Melissa over our years together. Goodbye, Gabriel.